created us in excellence. We seek God's help and guidance to find the best way to meet the needs of our constituency. We are humbled by their trust in us, and we ask for the wisdom to make the best decisions on their behalf. We ask the ruler of the heavens and the earth to protect ourselves and our families and to allow our work to be a source of inspiration and pride for them. It is said in my religion, when leadership is thrust upon you by the community, you receive God's help. So we pray that God, who is the epitome of justice, will allow your decisions to be just. God, who is infinitely patient, allow you all to not act rashly but deliberately. We pray that so many of our fellow Houstonians currently suffering, we pray that with so many of our fellow Houstonians currently suffering, that our Creator, our guardian, and involver will allow this court to be an instrument of healing and mercy for those in need. While we pray for those who are in need of power, safety, health, and security here locally, we also pray for those who are in need of power, safety, health, safety, and security in Haiti and Gaza, in Sudan and Ukraine, in Jamaica and Libya, and so many other places that our neighbors hail from. We pray that God will allow every child around the world to experience a day without bloodshed and a night without nightmares. We pray that God purifies our intentions so that we may act in a way that is pleasing to God. We pray for the ability to improve the world we live in, not only for our sake, but for those we have a responsibility for and for those who will follow. Finally, we ask God to grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. May God's peace and blessings be upon you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Ameen.
Thank you.
Inshallah.
Imam Shahid, thank you so much. And if we could please take a moment of silence for Harris County Sheriff Deputy Fernando Esqueda, who was ambushed and killed.
Yes, please.
Our prayers are with his family and all of his brothers and sisters serving in our sheriff's office and all law enforcement agencies.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Imam.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
We'll recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Yeah.
So good morning, everyone. I know that it's been a really, really tough time. A lot of people don't have power. I'd venture to guess there's somebody here who doesn't. And so oh goodness. And I know it's really frustrating, and I want everybody to know that we are putting every kind of pressure that we can on Centerpoint. Something else that we're working on is trying to figure out exactly what kind of regulation or requirements there should be, right? Why did they not have more hardened infrastructure? Obviously, there's not a cost incentive to do that kind of thing unless it becomes a requirement. And so asking those kinds of questions for after now. And we have a lot of operations going in terms of cooling centers. We've got 64 of them. We have 10 points of distribution for ice, water, and food, which you can check readyharris.org for the information. We're working to protect vulnerable populations, so calling the steer list, folks who already we know are vulnerable, reaching out to the folks in mobile homes, reaching out to our nonprofits, our communities of faith, our labor organizations and others, and really trying to reach the hardest hit communities. And so we have two disaster-related items out of order ahead of resolutions. Those are item 22 and item 278. So I would like to take those two out of order. But before I do that, let me just say thank you to everyone here for your patience, for your continued work despite what's taking place. For the volunteerism, we are trying to still recruit volunteers, particularly for debris removal in people's homes, inside people's properties, help getting the trees out of the home, working with a sawyer and really basically helping them haul what they cut down, helping haul the debris, whether it be food distribution, whether it be that or other initiatives with all kinds of organizations. That is available at Volunteer Houston website. It's Volunteer HOU. So I encourage everybody to do that. I want to thank my Office of Emergency Management team, whose coordination expertise have ensured our community stays informed and safe. And I'm always happy to work with them. But I want to just highlight the average hours that my team has worked. My team in general, the folks that are sitting behind me, is averaging 18 hours a day. And so I know that there's a lot of frustration. That's not going to make anybody less hot or less sweaty. But I want you all to know, and that's very much representative of how hard all of us are working day and night. So I want you all to know that that is the case. Weekends, mornings, night, whatever it is, we're all out there working hard. Our precincts are out there. Colleagues, the commissioners here have been out on the ground helping with debris pickup, establishing food distribution operations where we can efficiently get the materials from the state to their distribution sites out into the community, promoting it deep into the community, helping get the word out about resources. Each member of Commissioners Court has staff also working quite long hours in the Emergency Operations Center with us. Very, very efficient coordination. And of course, last but certainly not least, I want to thank our first responders. It's been countless hours. It has been the same professionalism we are lucky to be able to expect. And of course, I want to mention the deputy who was ambushed as well, Deputy Fernandez Queda. Really a tragic situation. His sister is also in the sheriff's office, the sheriff's deputy. Her fiance is really a family of law enforcement, and he's just so young. He was 28. So I know that we all hold not just his memory, but his family in our prayers and in our heart. I want to thank the state who helped us with resources and support since Monday when the hurricane first hit. So we've had 75 total trucks delivered, 32 trucks of water, 736,000 bottles of water, 28 trucks of MREs, those are meals ready to eat, 322,560 meals, 18 trucks of ice, which includes 3 donated from HEB, 82,800 bags of ice. And we're very grateful, of course, to our federal partners, members of our delegation, and the White House in general. The president was on the phone with me twice, the vice president once. Both ensured us that they'd turn around our FEMA individual assistance as quickly as possible, and they did indeed. I don't think it even took them 12 hours. So they've now approved our individual assistance so that residents can get direct aid at disasterassistance.gov. We'll also set up disaster recovery centers. We're also working to think about, more broadly speaking, any other initiatives we can have to support the community. One of the motions on the agenda today is actually about debris removal using our own county funds if we can get reimbursed by FEMA, by the federal government. So that's something we're going to look at, very creative, very important, because that's a big deal. There's a lot of people who can't afford someone to come cut down a tree at a $3,000, $4,000 cost. So anyway, overall, thank you to the community. Thank you to folks for their patience. Thank you to the linemen who are working hard. Know that we're going to ask the right questions in terms of what exactly is going to get Centerpoint and utilities to better prepare. And if you're able to volunteer or if you need help, call 211. There's a prompt, there's sort of an introduction, and the first prompt asks, do you need help with a disaster, or do you want to help someone who's been in a disaster? And that's also a prompt we got changed, not just for Harris County, but for the state, so that people can more easily access those resources in times of disaster and can help volunteer. So I would like to take items 22 and 278, both related to the disaster, out of order. Is there a motion to take those items out of order?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Ellis and second by Commissioner Ramsey. And so the first item is 22. I will let Director Ramos add any additional information on this. But essentially, we've got, was it $210 million in the PIC fund or so? And about 20 million y'all think is going to cost. Anyway, we need to approve access to the PIC fund.
We just want to make sure that there's no delays in departments and the precincts being able to access dollars to respond.
I'm sorry, Judge, were you going to call a vote for that motion? Take it out
No,
of
right
order.
now I want to, thank you. Okay, motion and a second. Motion by Commissioner Ellis, second by Commissioner Ramsey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, James. Okay, go ahead, Director. Thank you.
So there's 210 million. We're also expecting about 100 million in reimbursements related to COVID that came out of the PIC fund. So we do believe that we're going to get that funding in this fiscal, or next fiscal year.
Judge,
Yes, Commissioner Ellis.
so the 100 million, that's from previous disasters, right?
That's correct.
And how long have we been waiting? Was it,
I would defer to Director Carazal if he's on.
Yeah, Commissioner Ellis, most of this, what Daniel's talking about is from COVID. Of course, we were spending COVID funds, all the way through, I believe 2022 or 2023. So that's where most of the money outstanding is from.
and is there anything that we need to do to expedite it, or it's just a matter of waiting?
Commissioner Ellis, it's just more of having to go through, audits from the state, which we work with our recovery partner, Tetra Tech, on those audits. And so that's the last step before, you can get reimbursed.
Well, obviously, I'm for the motion, and we'll make the motion. We have to access it, but I do want to make sure we're clear on that $100 million. We got to go through audits. How confident are you that we're going to get the whole $100 million?
Yeah, Commissioner, I'm pretty confident. It seems what I've seen is most of the expenses, are definitely COVID. Just probably no questions asked. I know there's going to be a few things that we'll probably have to appeal and that sort of thing, especially when it comes to maybe some of the construction we did to for barriers and things like that. But I think for the most part, I feel pretty confident that we would definitely receive it.
Anything out of the ordinary in terms of the timetable for getting this money compared to previous reimbursements? Are we about on schedule?
No, sir. I think, in fact, my opinion, I think we'll probably come in a little bit faster than what we have for, other events. And I think that's just more because there's not a lot of construction and things like that from Harvey that take a lot longer. So I feel confident that we'll hopefully get this one finished up before, or sooner than we have other events.
Okay, Mr. Ramos, thanks for being back. I know you've had a lot to deal with, and our hearts go out for you and your family, obviously. Give me some sense of where we are with the amount we have in the PIC now in terms of right now money. Let's leave the 100
It's
million.
210 million.
But compared to where we've been previously.
So we were significantly higher prior to COVID, and again, we're waiting for 100 million that we know about. I believe, Shane, we have a little over 100 million that is still pending.
So were we 310 before COVID?
If you give me 1 minute, I'll look it up.
Just so we know where we are, particularly as we go into this cycle, as we think about if we need to put more there. If this is a season that will be as active as the experts are anticipating, we may be in this position again.
For context, the policy that this court approved, which was 12.5% of new revenue, would be about 280 million. So if you count what we have in the bank today plus what we expect to be reimbursed, we would be there. It just, and again, I want to echo Shane's comments. Based on my experience before working with FEMA, this is light speed in terms of getting reimbursed. I think that the federal government does an amazing job turning around our reimbursements and then moving them up to 100%, which is, I believe COVID is the first ever disaster where they've moved up to 100%. So
Okay. I'll move it if there are no questions from my colleagues, Judge.
I have a brief question. So we have been approved. Oh, Commissioner Ramsey.
no, I'm good.
We have been approved for reimbursement for A and B, which is debris, and what's the other one?
Sorry, Shane.
It's emergency protective measures, Judge.
Okay, and emergency protective measures. So we're applying, and I was in touch with Chief Kidd from TDM this morning for the other categories. So that'll be roads and bridges, water control facilities, public buildings and contents, public utilities, parks, recreational, and other facilities. So that's good news. The state checked to see if we have our materials ready, and they're absolutely ready. So we're gonna be advocating for that.
So will the motion be to authorize authorize access to the public contingency fund that's needed to fund emergency requests? Or
Yes.
is that some specific language? other than
Item
that?
22 is what we're voting on.
Yes, that's correct.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ellis, second by Commissioner Briones. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Is that motion okay with you, James?
If you could repeat it just for clarity.
So the one I have written here, motion to authorize OMB to access the public contingency fund as necessary for Hurricane Beryl response and recovery.
Yes, ma'am.
Does that sound about right? Yes, okay. All right, so then we have 278, and this one has several motions on here. The first one is, let's see. Requesting FEMA funding to help with private property debris management. So that is the initiative I was sharing with you all earlier. So the motion would be to direct engineering and HRM to engage FEMA and TDM to obtain pre-approval for debris removal on private property and roads, and to work with relevant county departments to accomplish the purpose of that directive. So that's a really big deal. If we get approved, we still have tree issues from the derecho. Now we have new and bigger issues, including bigger tree issues, debris issues from Beryl, and we're not even a third of the way through hurricane season. So, so trees are still on homes and properties, and I saw so many families who've had trees on homes, roof damage, trees in the middle of their homes, water falling through because of the tree. And so unfortunately, when a tree or debris falls on private property, Harris County does not have the authority to remove it. And so this will be a really big deal. I'll be calling President Biden later today to advocate with him and for FEMA to approve this program. And I know this is something that Shane Carazal and engineering led on, and obviously want to thank the administration for their support so far, that we feel rather hopeful that this would be a possibility. Yes, Commissioner Ramsey.
So we're on item 2 first, 278, item 2.
I have the debris motion. I've got a motion for extension of a disaster declaration, but I want to put that at the end because I'm not convinced. I want to understand that that's necessary.
My comments on item 2 are, we've been through many, many, many hurricanes and disasters in the county through the years. It's always been difficult, this issue of private property. Once we cross that line, now we're in picking winners and losers. I've got a real concern about that. Historically, we've not done that. It would be great if we had the resources and assets to fully engage with that, but this would literally be crossing the Rubicon in terms of historically we haven't, and I think there's reasons for that in terms of going on private property and doing anything. So once you go down that road of, well, I'm going to do it on this one for these good reasons, and I'm not going to do it on this other one for maybe equally good reasons, I don't think this would be wise to move forward with.
Judge,
Yes, Commissioner Ellis.
a couple of questions. One, would we get, and those are valid concerns, Commissioner Ramsey. Would we get reimbursed for this?
Yeah, that's the idea, right? If we don't get reimbursed, we wouldn't do it. Yeah.
And if we, okay, so we won't do it until we know if we're going to get reimbursed. So we're essentially applying for federal assistance to go and do it. And do we know if other counties have done this, or cities for that matter?
And briefly, Commissioner Ellis, to your first point, this is about social vulnerability index communities. It was so shocking, y'all. Like the trees, the homes that had trees on them, and I'm not talking one. I'm talking like in a street, 5, 6 of them, where like the grandma got up to get food and the tree fell where she was sitting and
Oh, I
she
get
saved
it, Judge.
herself.
If we're going to get the money back,
Right.
I think all of us
I just
want
want to share some. I know you do, but I just want to jump off that
Yeah.
to make a point, which is that is not the only tree that she or all those different people had wanted removed. So these families knew the trees were dangerous, but they can't afford a $6,000 tree removal. And so the priority here would be on communities that really can't afford to get it hauled from the house or from the backyard to the front. And we do have volunteers that are helping with that. We've tried to recruit volunteers, but there are about 100 and some odd volunteers right now that'll do that. And it takes six folks a whole day to do that process. So anyway, so
I would hope none of us would be against federal money to do it.
For vulnerable populations.
Then I will want to go to how we distribute it, like what's the criteria. But clearly, if it's federal,
So I want to be clear, Commissioner Ellis, that we would not be doing anything at this moment until we get word
we
from
know
the
if we get the money.
government
Yeah.
that we would be getting the money to do it if it's approved. Because I do share Commissioner Ramsey's concerns. In spite of, I've seen up close and personal the damage that the storm has caused. However, we're going to end up, I think, owning homes and reconstruction of homes that we didn't intend to if this is not done correctly. So I do have those concerns, but if this is simply to ask permission to see if it can be done, I'll support that. But then the process by which we select those homes, I think we're going to be right back to Commissioner Ramsey's because there's a lot of social vulnerability across this county, and we're going to leave people out undoubtedly. And I just don't want to own that.
Judge?
I know, yeah, Commissioner Ellis had asked a question. Yeah.
Oh, no, I have a point when you guys are have a moment
Okay,
on this
thank you.
topic.
So I just want to get some sense of if other counties have done it. I mean, look, on most things we do, by the way, rarely are we able to help everybody. I mean, we wouldn't do much of anything. So we have to sort through, but we want to do as much as we can. And we'd have to figure out whatever the criteria is. And I'm assuming you could look somewhere in Texas, a city or a county, if not outside. But if it's federal money, I think we have to roll our sleeves up and figure out somehow how we do it if we get it.
And Director Carzal is the one that has done a lot of
Yeah.
research on this.
Yeah, and a couple of things. Number one is, first of all, as a reimbursement, it would fall on the same lines as debris removal, which just want to point out it's still a 75-25, meaning 25% local match, so it's not a 100%. The second thing is our recovery partner Tetra Tech says this has been done. Florida and California wildfires in California, and storm related in Florida, and this would have to be a limited, targeted. To some of y'all's concerns, it's very limited to certain areas and those things, and so y'all's offices would have to be involved with that, just because y'all are going to know those areas, and it's going to have to be a coordinated coordination on this, and we would not move forward with it. To Commissioner Garcia's point, just trying to explore it to see if we could get approval for some of these neighborhoods or tracks. That's what we're trying to
some
do.
lessons learned from Florida and California if they've been doing it. Since now we're finding out we're going to have far more natural disasters than we were accustomed to.
Yeah, Commissioner, I don't, as of lessons learned, I can definitely, as
But we have time. If we get the money, we got time to figure it out. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Brandis.
Thank you. Director Carazal, so I'm very open as well to asking if we can get the reimbursement. And to be clear, FEMA and TDM would both have to sign off in order for this to be eligible for reimbursement?
Yeah, it's mainly FEMA. I mean, you always go through FEMA, first from an obligation standpoint, TDM, on the back end, because they have to, audit it. But definitely, we would want both of them to be in the conversations up front.
Just one other.
Judge?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Commissioner Ellis.
I'll wait, go ahead. Go ahead, Jay.
Oh, I just want to sort of manage expectations here on this. There's sort of two separate issues. One is the reimbursement portion from FEMA. The second is the county's ability to actually do this. And I think one of the things, and this is something Commissioner Garcia office had talked to us about, I think candidly, like 3 disasters ago, because this issue had come up a lot. And so we're willing to work through, but the issues that Commissioner Ramsey said related to the ability of the county to use public resources on private property is a challenging one. And so we would have to go through that mechanism to make sure we're authorized under state law for the county to act on behalf of that. That's part one. The second part of it is, once we do it, can we get reimbursed for it? And so I just want to manage expectations. When we've looked at this in the past, it has not been super favorable, but we're obviously willing to look at it again because we know these are sort of compelling circumstances.
What do you mean super favorable, Jay? Can you explain?
I think we're still not clear that it's
State law may not prohibit.
exactly. The state law may not allow us to do it. I don't want to say equivocally, but I just want to manage expectations.
Commissioner Ellis and then Commissioner Briones.
So thank you. And I think these are all valid points. And since we obviously don't have the home rule power that cities have, we might look and see if some city in Texas has ever done it. And we ought to be cognizant of the 25% match that we would put up. But, I'm for moving forward and finding out. And I'm assuming even if there's some questions on whether or not we can do it, it'll be interesting to see if some city, does Tetra Tech know? Shane, do you know of some city, home rule city in Texas?
I believe Galveston County may have done this. I'm not sure which event, so I will look into that.
Galveston County or the city of Galveston?
I believe it was Galveston County.
Okay, if it's Galveston County, that's going to help. Of course, sometimes we get a little more scrutiny than the norm.
And just to let y'all know, the rules do change, from event to event, so it may be a little different, now, but it's my understanding that they've done it, and possibly the city too. But I'll get that information for you.
Commissioner, it's Commissioner Briones and then Commissioner Garcia. Would you like for Garcia to go
Yes.
first?
So quick question, just to confirm. So the local match, the 25% would first come out of the PIC, and then the court would need to pull from the general fund to replenish, similar to the protocol, to the extent it's approved by FEMA and TDIM.
That's correct.
Yes. And for my own,
So we would have to put up the entire cost, and we would submit for reimbursement for the 75%.
okay. And for my own knowledge, was this requested during Harvey or any of the other storms that happened before I was on court?
Commissioner, not this particular program. Some not quite the same, but we did get approval to pick up on private roads. But again, that's a little bit different process and program. But that's the closest thing we've gotten to this.
And how soon do you think we could get approval from FEMA and TDIM to the extent they approve?
I've been told it does take a little time. 3-4 weeks potentially is the time frame that I've been given. But we'll start the discussions right away if this motion passes. And then my question, Jay, I know we're going to talk a little bit later about activating our contractors, and I know we had a long conversation about this a couple courts ago. And my understanding was the way the bid was put out and the way the contract is, we have to use one contractor. We could not move forward on parallel tracks with dual contractors based on how the bids were. So would we have to then go out, or would it fall within the 4 corners of the extant agreement?
Yeah, we'll have to look at it again. I don't know, Commissioner, without looking at it again.
Commissioner Garcia, Commissioner Ramsey, and then Commissioner Ellis.
Shane, I guess a little bit to what Jay just mentioned. So we will hire contractors to do this?
Yeah, the way I see this work, it would just be the same, the same debris folks that we use now to remove the debris. And, it's basically just getting it from people's private property into the right of way to be picked up.
And so is it accurate that the contract would have to go to one vendor?
Well, I know there's discussion on that, in a little bit here, but, as of if you're talking specifically about primary, secondary vendors, I think there's some, I think there's some, if we have some good justification things, we can go to a secondary vendor. I've been working with engineering this morning on detailed justification. So I think that could potentially be done, having the secondary vendor or whomever.
I would want something that has a little bit more inclusion, if you will, per precinct, because we all have tons of damage, and I don't want to be waiting for one side of town to be finished. So I would be more interested in making sure that the precincts would have the ability to have some parallel capacity.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Ramsey and then Commissioner Ellis.
So there's really two things we're pursuing. One, can we obtain funding through FEMA and TDM to go on private property? And then, Jay, then we have to determine the criteria by which we would go on private property. Can we go on private property? And the criteria that we would use on going on private property. I'm going to just assume here, as we pursue this with FEMA, are they not going to want to know what that criteria is in terms of what we're talking about? We in general say it's for people in need, but as I've described to the court on many occasions, there's really underserved neighborhoods, even in Precinct 3, that because they were not necessarily met a certain criteria related to SVI, they were excluded from being served. So knowing the criteria that you're going to go, I can show you, I've been in 100 homes this week in terms of trees on people's homes. And there's a lot of homes with some people that can't afford to deal with the disaster, and they may be in the wrong zip code. So understanding that criteria, down in the weeds of that criteria, I think is going to be important to understand. So I guess it's two things this motion would be: pursue the conversation related to funding, and then pursue the conversation related to could we do it and the criteria associated with it. That's all in that. This is the motion we're voting on.
Well,
Commissioner Ellis, yeah.
I would make the suggestion that if we don't know the basis on which the federal government awards the money, first we ought to see if we can get the money.
Yeah.
Now, being sensitive to Commissioner Ramsey, what you're saying, I would say there's several ways you could do it. It ought to be the same criteria countywide.
Right.
You don't have to do it by zip codes. If you want to say anybody in the county below whatever, 1,000, 10%, whatever it is, of the medium income, those people do live everywhere. So I would say I'd suggest don't tie hands on whether or not we can get the money unless they require that when it goes in. First, I'd see if you can get the money.
I suspect they have criteria. I suspect FEMA has criteria.
Yeah, they might. I don't know. But at least we ought to know. I don't know. Do you all know in terms of do they want you to have a plan on who it's going to go to before you ask for the money?
Yeah, I'll tell you, eventually they will, they're going to want to know, maybe not specifically to the property
So I'm
address.
just saying,
but
immediately when
to
we get
certain
like on
sections.
debris collection, I don't think they say before you ask for reimbursement, before you ask for the ability to draw down money for debris collection, they want to know whose debris you're going to collect. I don't think they do. We would know that right now because we've already awarded those contracts, right?
Commissioner, if you're referring to debris in the right of way, we do not have to
Yeah.
let them know,
Yeah,
as long as we
making
stay
sense,
within our
Tom?
jurisdiction.
I'm just saying, so at least find out, but I agree. Look, I'm sensitive to those poor people wherever they live,
Right.
but I'm also sensitive to making sure we don't just go and take care of folk historically that maybe the county has looked at first because it makes the most noise. But I'll certainly concede that there's poverty all over this county. Now, here's the question I was going to ask before I kind of got detracted there. So will we be talking about private property countywide? Or are we just talking about unincorporated? Or just what are we talking about on this issue?
Commissioner, this gets into, jurisdictional type boundaries, and so it's my understanding it would just be, just unincorporated Harris County.
Okay.
And maybe if we do that, the city will consider doing something similar. I want to ask Commissioner Ramsey on the selection criteria, and I think we're fine. We're kind of coming to that. We can ask and then go from there.
So you want a
But,
motion
like,
on that to get that disposed of? So at least we'll agree to apply, to give us the option.
Yeah.
Hey, Judge, before we take any votes on this, I know there's one
Just make a-
speaker.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to let you know.
And so let me ask my question too, which is Commissioner Ramsey's point about how to qualify. I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. In my head, you have, like, for any kind of public program, you set a set of criteria, like, like X percent of the poverty line, or has to have lost X amount during a disaster, or whatever it is. And you apply that across the board. So what would you like to see, hypothetically, if this gets approved? Are you saying to not put the threshold as low? I mean, I'm just saying, like your community does have poverty, so the people that are in that level would meet it, and the people that aren't would not, right? Or, like, are you saying that it should be different per precinct?
Well, Judge, specifically, I was in the Crosby area a lot on Saturday. They were 90% without power on Saturday. And there's a lot of folks out there just judging on whose car I put ice in and whose car I put water in. They were people in need, and whether it meets some arbitrary criteria created in a vacuum, all I know is that there were many neighborhoods I went into this weekend with people in need. I just want to be sure it's not arbitrary. It doesn't restrict, as we've done in some cases, limit it to certain zip codes, not in precinct 3. So it needs to be, and I think Commissioner Ellis has said that, we need to be sure we understand the criteria. It needs to be fair, because there are underserved neighborhoods in every part of our county.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm not getting, because, like, what would be not arbitrary? Like, how would you? But, like, if we said okay, any zip codes where there's this percentage of poor people, well, some zip codes are going to meet it, and some zip codes are not going to meet it.
Which is what this court has done in the past, and I hope we don't do that on this one. That's what I'm saying.
So you're saying not by zip code, but by, like, individual.
That's my feedback.
Okay.
It's individually.
Right, I understand.
There are homes in neighborhoods that you would consider not underserved.
Right, but there are people that are underserved.
But people are going to have to move because they can't afford to remove a tree from their house.
No, and it reminds me of the folks up on was it the East Fork of the east side of San Jacinto River, the, like, living along the river. By the way, I'm wondering whatever happened with those folks. We can talk about it later. Commissioner Brianna, did you have a question or comment?
No. So in sum, it seems like we all agree, let's ask FEMA and TDIM, and if we are granted approval, then we can create alignment amongst the 5 of us as to how that will be operationalized. In terms of operational, I know all of us here have spent the last week out in the field, and I want to say thank you to all of our county partners and first responders. We know the need is tremendous. And so to me, the way I see this is we need to thank everyone that's been done, but we also know we're still cleaning up from the derecho, and patience is not a virtue I possess. So I look forward to hopefully getting a positive answer on this private property issue. And as we even focus on government property, we need to find better ways to go faster and better deliver. What we can do in terms of our road and bridge crews and our own county resources. And I look forward, and I'm so thankful to TDIM and the state partners for how supportive they've been to the county and to the precincts. And I look forward to working with them. What can we do so that we don't have to wait 72 hours for the pods? And so I just want to thank all of the partners, nonprofit like Houston Food Bank, and corporate partners like H-E-B and Walmart and Coca-Cola, and so many that stepped up to fill that need immediately. And so I just want us to be prepared not only to respond and respond quickly, but also what more can we do proactively so that immediately after a disaster, we can be there to serve. And I just want to thank, for instance, our road and bridge crew. I know all the precincts. My team, as soon as it was safe to get on the roads, they've already picked up 400 dump trucks of debris and more, I'm sure, by this morning. And, we had about 6,000 folks in our cooling centers, about 6,000 families that came to the distribution lines. And I know all of us are running at that. What more can we do in collaboration with the federal and state government so that we're prepared not only to respond in the weeks that come, but also just so that we have the resources available. So in sum, I look forward to seeing what answer they give us. But in the meantime, from a contractual standpoint, the last thing I want is to slow down what we're able to deliver. On the contrary, I want to find creative ways to expedite.
Judge,
Commissioner, yes.
it's been a little bit over 10 minutes, so if there's a motion to continue.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Garcia, second by Commissioner Briones to extend the discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Yes, Commissioner Ellis.
Judge, I know when we get off this item, we all want to thank all our staffs and some about their work in these centers right now. But on this issue, I just want to stress that I think we ought to move forward to draw down the money if we can get it, knowing it's a 75-25% match. In other cities that don't apply, not just Houston, Pasadena, any of the other cities that don't apply for it, we would not go on private property in those jurisdictions as well. I just want to make sure that is clear. And then Commissioner Ramsey, I want to say I think all of us are sensitive to poverty in every precinct. Barrett Station, which I clearly know about historically, and Commissioner Garcia knows because he represented it for a while. But I do want to stress to you, I don't think anybody moves into a precinct that has the largest number of low-income zip codes so they can get benefits. Not in Texas, maybe somewhere else, but that wouldn't happen in Texas. More of them, I just want to stress, would go the other way. Most of our money for federal relief has followed, as you know, a cost-benefit ratio. But unfortunately, those people in the neighborhoods that didn't get anything couldn't afford a house.
Let
in
me
the
tell you
wealthier
the
neighborhoods.
shocking information I found out, and was going to have this conversation, but now's a good time to bring it up. FEMA just determined that Barrett Station is not an LMI neighborhood. That's the arbitrary and capricious nature of criteria. So when we're moving forward on this, and I'm working with Chow and others to try to, are you kidding me? They're not even on the list.
And I want to stress to you, it may be because poverty is just so tremendous in this county. The number goes up a bit in terms of who qualifies as poverty. So it may be more of a statement about how much need we have. I'm all for lobbying for it, but most folks are not lobbying to get into the LMI category because the feds obviously only deal with a part of that.
Obviously, we're pursuing grant money. That's one.
Yeah, I got it. So the key is to get away from that LMI category, particularly when you're talking about these flood projects. That's a separate issue. But I think I hear consensus on this one. So the first one, can we agree that we're going to apply? And Judge, you had a motion.
I still have a
Okay.
point on this.
Yes, Commissioner Garcia, and then we'll take the speaker.
The, one of the components that has been very, very helpful to folks in my precinct is the collaboration that we have with New Houston, which is the labor component. And so I would want to make sure that if we are successful in getting permission to do this, that New Houston is included on this. And so I'd like to hear that in the motion because they have just been incredibly phenomenal at helping those families that have those great challenges. But they do stop short of the most catastrophic damages that people have. And so that may be a way for us to differentiate the greatest need from need. And so I'd like to make sure that your motion includes that we would look on ways to include New Houston into this.
I like that. Oh, any others? Obviously, if they meet the guideline, because we want to make sure we can draw down the money.
Yeah.
But I think we have one speaker, and I'm for that.
We'll take the speaker.
Speaker number 18, Danny Asbury L. You have 1 minute.
Honorable Judge Hidalgo and esteemed commissioners, regarding Agenda Item 278, in our response to Hurricane Beryl, I present a comprehensive 12-step resilience plan that addresses not just recovery, but future prevention and preparedness. Our plan, developed with Soleil International, includes innovative solutions like community power stations and NASA-inspired resource hubs. It aligns perfectly with Chapter 418 of the Texas Government Code addressing disaster response, debris removal, and recovery. This $226 million 7-year investment will save billions in future disaster costs, create thousands of jobs, and transform Harris County into a national model of urban resilience. I respectfully request the opportunity to present our full proposal, which includes a framework for
Your
implementation,
time is up.
funding, and contract opportunity.
Thank you. We got it. Thank you. Thanks
Which
for
group
coming.
are you with again?
Say again?
Which group are you with?
Soleil International, the Northwood Manor Civic Club as well.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to reading it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So,
Yeah.
so Judge, the motion is the one you presented, and add this addendum and see if not-for-profits like New Houston could be included.
Okay.
Does that work?
Okay, so the motion will be, oh my goodness, just a moment, you guys. I switched computers
And Jay, while she's looking for that, I assume that the procurement process, we'd have to go through it for any partner that would exceed the 50,000 threshold, correct? Okay.
Correct. That's
So
correct,
maybe
Commissioner.
adding something subject to all applicable laws and regulations or something like
Yeah.
that.
And so with the part we're adding with Commissioner Garcia, we'll see if that not-for-profits like New Houston who could apply to do the work as well.
Okay, so the motion here would be to direct engineering and HRM to engage FEMA and TDM to obtain pre-approval for debris removal on private property and roads, and to work with relevant county departments to accomplish the purpose of this directive, to also consider whether nonprofits would qualify for this. Does that sound about right?
Nonprofits would qualify to do the removal as well.
Right. I mean, right. You guys would go through that basic legal and actual meets requirements check.
Yes, Judge, we'll
With
do that.
everything. Okay, is there a motion?
So move.
A second? Motion by Commissioner Ellis, second by Commissioner Garcia. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, let's go to the third one, Commissioner Ramsey, and I'm still going to come back to the first one. But I just want to have all the information here. All right, so this is flood control requesting approval to release up to $10 million from their reserve funds for removing debris within channels, down trees, storm debris, and they have reserve funds for that, correct, Director Peterson? Okay. So that motion would be to direct the Flood Control District and the Office of Management and Budget to work with relevant offices to move up to $10 million from the Flood Control District 2890 Reserve Funds into the Flood Control District Maintenance Fund 2891 for disaster recovery expenses.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Garcia, second by Commissioner Ellis.
Can I
Any
make a
comments?
comment?
Yes, Commissioner Ramsey.
Just as Director Peterson and I talked this week, I can't think of anything more important than focusing on those channels. Because when a tree's in the middle of the road, it's pretty obvious what you need to do. But when a tree is down in a hard to get to location on a creek in the middle of nowhere, we don't know it until the next storm comes and half of Harris County is flooded. So with high degree of urgency, I support the motion and appreciate Director Peterson's priority that you're already given to this.
Judge,
Yes, Commissioner.
Director Peterson, is it 10 million enough? And by the way, I won't suggest any criteria. Would you please get the trees wherever they are, rich or poor?
Good afternoon, or morning. We're still morning. It feels like the afternoon already. So to your point, Commissioner Ellis, we do believe 10 million is enough. These funds will be reimbursable to FEMA. So really our priority, as Commissioner Ramsey pointed out, is to just move quickly. We know that we are at the beginning of hurricane season, not the end, and we want to make sure that we are out removing this debris as quickly as possible. So what these $10 million will do is help us pay for contract support, really staff augmentation to support our damage assessments, as well as our debris removal operations, as well as the actual funding for the debris contractor.
Thank you.
Commissioner Briones.
Dr. Peterson, I echo my colleagues' sentiments. Thank you and your flood control district, and especially Jeff Linder, for everything you do to keep our county safe. And I look forward to our discussion later today on deferred maintenance. But just seeing the positive impact Project Braze had in keeping our community safe and various other flood mitigation projects, what you are doing is of critical importance, and we're just grateful for your partnership. So I will enthusiastically support this motion.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have motion by Commissioner Ellis,
Garcia.
a second, Commissioner Garcia.
Right, did you make it? Did I make it?
I forgot who made the second. You guys
Commissioner
have it.
Ellis made
You
the
have it?
second.
Ellis, okay.
Got it? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And yes, all the flood control folks, County Administrator, Budget, I know Universal Services, you guys were there also all night and working all the time. So I'm glad you brought that up, Commissioner Briones. Okay, so then motion 4, very important for our employees. So this will approve overtime cash out for employees. We need a motion to authorize employees to cash out compensatory time earned through the pay period ending August 9, 2024 for response and recovery efforts in connection to Hurricane Beryl.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Briones, second by Commissioner Ellis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you to all our employees. Motion 5, this is to support debris removal operations. This is a motion to authorize funding from the Public Contingency Fund for Hurricane Beryl relief efforts in the following amounts: $24 million for debris removal and $6 million for monitoring activities, for a total amount not to exceed $30 million. So I would like to ask engineering to explain why these numbers, but anyway, that's the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ellis, second by Commissioner Ramsey. Is someone from engineering on here?
Yeah, this is John Dice. We can explain those. We got those through Tetra Tech. They did the estimates for the debris removal, and they are the monitor.
Okay, and then, hi, good morning, you guys. And so, what will that allow you to do? Everything you're anticipating needing, or?
We put in there not to exceed. If we do look like it's going to exceed that, we'll come back to the court. But we expect to be able to do it. That.
Okay, so you think that's about what you're predicting?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, well, great. So we have a motion and a second. Did you get that down, James?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And then there is one motion to approve the item as presented. And so this will allow that debris management operations begin immediately by yeah, okay. So can we do this without having made the disaster declaration extension, or do we have to go there?
Judge, yeah, I guess that's my question. I know you wanted to wait on that one.
Oh, no, let's go back to it, I think.
Okay. Because the declaration, I think, it expired yesterday.
Yeah, okay,
So before we can do the sixth one, we need to go back and do number one. Is what you're saying?
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 So going back to number one. All right. So it's already been used to, in order to ensure that debris management operations could begin immediately, in other words, the Tuesday after the storm, new purchase orders were issued on July 10th. For number one, the debris hauler, which is a DRC contract totaling $2 million, and the debris monitor, which is Tetra Tech, totaling $500,000 for Hurricane Beryl recovery. And so that's what we've used it for so far. Going forward, I'm told we need to extend it, but I basically. One of the reasons they're giving me here is that if we extend it, then we don't have to have an emergency court to be called to extend it, because there's a commissioners court meeting scheduled for August 6th. And then in case we need additional procurement, but I'd like to understand on what. I'd also like to understand, do we as court need to somehow certify the debris hauler and debris monitor $500,000? I seem to remember we've done that in the past where, we signed it as an emergency matter and then it came back.
Go ahead. I don't know if John wanted me to take it or not. So on some of the debris contracts, the way they had been, they're sort of preloaded. I think that's how we had done it through purchasing before, so that the contracts are essentially available upon the disaster, for lack of a better word, and so then they can be activated at that point. We can bring them back as a transmittal, but these are already been approved in advance by the court.
Okay.
So it's really up to your preference of whether, I don't know if Dwight's on, he could probably talk to that. Speak to that, rather.
Good morning. Yes, I'm on. Judge, that's correct. And commissioners, we actually have these all pre-positioned for court to be able to utilize as immediately as needed. The only thing we're bringing back to court is just to notify court of what we're anticipating expenditures to be and what POs we've processed to date. So we can come back to court with these items or items that are needed that engineering comes to us with that may not be under contract, that may be one-offs. But if the extension of the disaster is put into place, then that'll give us that ability to do so. But at this point, again, most of what we've used so far has been in pre-positioned contracts.
Judge.
Yes, Commissioner Ellis.
So this would be a motion to approve the order to continue the current disaster declaration until August 6, 2024. It's my assumption this is very much in line with what we have done in the past when they have been disasters.
That's correct, Commissioner. The court has extended it until essentially we're past recovery stage.
I'm prepared to make the motion, and I'm assuming if we don't, to break from what we've done in the past, there are things that need to be tended to that possibly won't be tended to. Is that your impression, Judge?
I think that's a fair, I think it just gives the judge and the court more flexibility in the event there's something that needs to be done on an emergency basis. We have that extra court to ratify, as the judge has pointed out in the past. So this is really consistent with the way we've done it in the past.
At least since I've been here, it's always been done. So I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ellis, second by Commissioner Ramsey. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm going to abstain so nobody says I'm doing this for some sort of nefarious reason. So motion carries 4 and 1 abstention.
Just don't make that a practice.
Yeah.
So we ever needed to vote.
Say that again?
If we ever needed to vote, we want you to vote on it.
What do you mean? Sorry.
Yeah, don't make it a tradition, because if we needed your vote, we want you to do it.
Oh yeah, no, I just know it's been intimated in the past that emergency purchasing authority is somehow me giving out contracts to handpicked people who give me donations, which is not the case.
Understood, Judge.
Okay, so then we go back to the 6th one, which is the item needs to be approved as presented.
So move.
Okay.
What item?
The item. So this item that we've had 5 motions so far in, the item itself, which is authorization to discussion possible action, blah, blah, blah. And then it says authorization to execute approved contracts for disaster response, debris removal, and recovery pursuant to Chapter 418 of the Texas Government Code, including ratification of such expenditures for actions taken out of public necessity and to alleviate suffering. And I confess this is another one that I need you guys to explain because the questions I've asked, the answers are not really satisfying to me.
It's legalese to approve item 278 would be my guess. So the question is, why do we need to move to approve the item as presented? So I'm saying that I assume it's the legalese, so all of the items we just took are valid.
Correct. I think what it is item 278 includes, it includes items that were not on that list. So for example, the approved contracts. It's just additional language. It's sort of a belts and suspenders approach.
It's what we've done every time,
it's
at least
what
since I've been here.
That's correct.
So I was just calling it legalese because it's been here every time.
But there is another conversation we're going to have before we get off of this related to additional authorizations under this contract. In other words, we've authorized one vendor for debris removal.
Correct.
But clearly, we likely will need another, and that's a separate conversation from this.
I know that conversation is to be talked about. I thought that was a separate item, actually.
I think it's under this one.
It is under,
Commissioner
okay,
Ramsey,
sorry,
I think you're correct. Yes, and it's being able to issue the purchase order for the second vendor as an addition to the first vendor, not necessarily, not a replacement, but for more capacity. And I know that John Dice is on the line, and so is Shane Carazal, and Mr. Dobsloff as well, and we've all discussed the issue. The reason we wanted to specifically talk about it today is just make sure that you understand that we're working to get all the documentation we need to be able to provide to FEMA to make sure that having a second vendor that might not be the lowest bidder, but a little bit higher cost, that that there's a bit of a risk that FEMA will push back on that reimbursement request. And so we're doing all the work right now together to make sure that we can document that as best as possible so that we do get that reimbursement. But it is a slightly higher risk that there'll be some pushback from FEMA.
So as we have communicated with several, talked to Dwight, talked to Shane, we've talked.
Yes, sir.
Let me put some context to this. We've not picked up everything from the Draco, okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's still Draco debris on the streets in Harris County.
Yep.
So that needs to be understood. And two, this storm, Beryl, put a lot more debris, a lot more spread out throughout the county. For example, the Draco in my precinct by many numbers was most heavily impacted the villages, Copperfield, and Channelview. Beryl, it would take me 5 minutes to list all the neighborhoods it hit. So we need additional help on the ground, not only in terms of removal, but equally important is the ground managers, the monitors. So included in terms of documentation, if the concern, which I've heard Shane express concern, I've heard you express concern, I've heard Dwight express concern. If you're concerned about documentation, then you had better get another vendor on board to help document. So right now we have a vendor that's doing the hauler. There's another one proposed to do a hauler. Tetra Tech's the monitor. Folks, we got to get another monitor on board as soon as possible. So I am advocating today that we get not only another hauler on board as soon as possible. I've got 154 zones that we've got identified. And if you care to see the zones and how much debris is in each one, I'll be happy to spend it with you. But if we continue under the current plan, we will not be able to pick up the debris. That's just in precinct 3. This is the case in every precinct.
I
So
share your concerns.
there are compelling reasons that we add the other vendor and get our documentation act together. If we have issues related to how we document, then we need to all strap it on and get our detail organized and be sure we document it. And that's on Dwight and Shane and county administrator and Tom Ramsey and everybody associated with it, that we document it. So I cannot advocate more adamantly that there are major issues today with the debris pickup, the debris monitoring that needs to be addressed, and we need to get that additional help on board ASAP.
Tom?
Commissioner Garcia, and then Ellis, and then Briones.
Commissioner Ramsey, I wanted to echo your comments. And I know I see some of the vendors in the room, and I'm not sure whose responsibility this falls on. Dr. Rahman, thank you for tuning in. You didn't have to, but thank you so much for being here. What I want to make sure is that, because I've already heard some of this, that, oh, well, that's a derecho pile. We're not going to touch that one. Oh, this is going to be a barrel pile. We'll target that one. We don't need to have any of that. It's debris, and debris is debris. So I need to make sure that we figure out a seamless way to ensure that, number one, the vendors get paid accordingly, but number two, that we get this picked up as quickly as possible without this convolution of, well, that's not my pile, that's somebody else's pile, or that's the new contractor's pile. We need to figure out how to resolve that very, very quickly.
Judge, is there a motion to extend another 10 minutes?
Sure.
Motion by Commissioner Garcia, second by Commissioner Ramsey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
So, Judge,
Yes, Commissioner Ellis.
so my question is, what impact will it have if we bring in another vendor? I want to make sure that it helps, it does not hurt. I know if I had a contract and I had to go out and hire people, and under my contract, I'm making less than somebody else makes, I want to make sure that we don't neuter one vendor by bringing in another one. So now maybe all of these, both companies have the fleets, and if it's a matter of just bringing their resources in, but if they are looking for subs to do a bit of the work, I just want to make sure we don't have an unintended consequence, because then somebody's gonna end up taking the subs from the first one we have if they make less, paying them more, and they go to the other one. I just want to make sure we don't end up thinking we're helping ourselves and we're not. So now I want to hear from you, Milton, and then maybe I want to hear from Dr. Rahman and then from Mr. Dopsloff, because I just want to see how this works. I don't know which one's responsible for it. You, Dr. Rahman, and thanks for coming on. I know you're on vacation. But I think you might have gone off, Dr. Rahman. I'm not sure. May have lost you there. Are you still there, Dr. Rahman?
Maybe John can.
Yeah, maybe John. I just want to make sure there's no unintended consequence. First of all, on doing the work. Then I'll go to whether or not we get reimbursed, or if you got to go through some process again. I think it's on you, Mr. Dice.
Yeah. Yes, Commissioner. We've been looking at this. We think we can get more debris removed and be much more effective with two vendors. And I think that's what Dr. Rahman would have said if he was still on the call.
Okay. And Mr. Dopsloff? Any concerns on your part from the purchasing end? Dr. Rahman, you're back. So my understanding is you think we'll get more debris picked up. I think we lost you again. I think we lost you. Dwight, any concerns on your part?
Commissioner, from my standpoint, we have the contracts in place. So it's, if they want to activate multiple vendors, they can. From the documentation standpoint, I was just given my recommendation, hey, we just need to have that performance issues that Commissioner Ramsey brought up. to give from engineering, which normally provides it to us. So again, that's the documentation we need to have, or Shane will need to have. From a procurement standpoint, all I got to do is put the contracts in place and get the vendors ready to go. And we've actually already issued a PO for the secondary vendor.
On
For both
on the reimbursement side, any concerns on the reimbursement side? Will they give us the higher rate, or they just give us 75% of what we spend, period, however we spend it?
I would assume they should give us the rate that we spend, as long as we can justify the reasoning for going with 2 or 3 vendors based on the size of the capacity of the project that we have, and the vendor is not providing the trucks to us, the primary vendor.
And do they
if they're
give
not
us
giving
100%
resources there.
reimbursement, the federal government, or 75%?
Commissioner, right now it's at 75%.
Okay. So that means the cost will go up on what we will expend, but we will get 75% period from the federal government, however we do it. If we want to go bring in a third or fourth one, which, by the way, may be an option. If it helps, if bringing in more vendors helps, Dr. Rahman or Mr. Dice, would that help you to bring in more than 2?
Right now, we're just saying 2. We haven't looked at doing a third one yet.
Okay. I think you ought to look at it. I mean, the concern was brought to my staff. If you brought in another one, would the first one do as much because they had a lower rate? But I'm going to follow your recommendation. But I would say don't just do 2. If it'll get it up, get 3, get 4. And I don't know what my colleagues think about that. But if the issue is a qualified vendor, the more the merrier. Hey, let's get it up.
I think to Dr. Rahman and his staff, who I echo.
Just so you know, Commissioner Briones was next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I share the sentiment. We absolutely need 2, potentially more, because we're still picking up derecho debris. I know all 4 of our precinct road and bridge crews, they're amazing. But even with the vendor, it's just not swift enough, and I worry about future storms. My question was similar to Commissioner Ellis's, but it was going to be directed at the county attorney's office. Any concerns from your end with activating the second vendor?
No, when we had conversations with outside counsel about this, there is a process by which the second vendor can be activated. And so we feel like if those controls are in place, we can do it. The existing RFP actually allows for greater flexibility. For example, the city of Houston, the way their contract is structured, they use multiple vendors. So we have that ability within the RFP that we put out. It's just the way we had moved forward with it. So we think it can be done. It's just a matter of making sure that the process is done correctly.
And out of curiosity, with regard to the flexibility in the contract, if, knock on wood, another storm hits this summer, does the current contract allow us to then activate a third, fourth, et cetera?
Yeah, there's no limit to it. It does. There's no limitation that says that you're limited to one vendor is what they issue. And I think Dwight can speak to it. I think he's familiar with the RFP certainly more than I am. But we didn't make that specification under the RFP that you're limited to one.
And my last question, Dwight, and this, if you could roll this in with the response you were about to give to Jay, but how soon, if this is passed today at court, how soon can we have the additional vendor? And I agree with the additional monitoring as well. How soon could they be on the ground?
Commissioner, we've actually already issued the confirming POs to engineering this past weekend. So I assume John and them have already been in contact with the secondary vendors, both of them, because that happened last Friday or Saturday. So I can't say what dates are coming in, Commissioner, but I do know that we've already issued confirming POs for both the secondary vendors.
Thank you.
This is John Dice again. We can start tomorrow, vendor. We just need a motion to do so.
Commissioner Ramsey. Oh,
no, thank you.
Commissioner Ramsey.
Yeah, just quickly, again, it's just as important on the monitoring side that we get that contract on, not just the debris pickup. Very, very, very key. I want to acknowledge the county engineer's office. When they're out there trying to figure out what to do next, they're making good engineering decisions, not sitting and looking at contracts on what vendor makes more money or what contract. They're trying to get assets and resources properly directed. So it's to their credit, Commissioner. I've had the same kind of questions, but having experienced the process that they're looking at assigning, making assignments and doing the job, they've really tried to stick to it from an engineering perspective.
Quick question, Judge.
Yes.
What is the city doing? How many vendors do they have? 1, 2, 3, 4?
I think Dwight can answer, but my understanding was they have at least 2. But Dwight, do you know?
Do you know Dwight?
Yes, sir. They have the same 2 vendors we have.
Okay.
They actually have 3 under contract, Commissioner, but they're using 2, Ashburton and DRC.
And
So
if we brought in a third, who is the third one? Who's next?
I'd have to pull that list up, Commissioner, right quick. I don't have the name off the top of my head, but I can get it for you. But we do have 3 in line.
So I would hope that we're in the same region, trash, in our city and the city of Houston as well, and other cities. So if they go to 3, I hope you all will go to 3 as well, if there's some rationale for it. Okay.
Yes, sir. I mean, again, the contracts are available, and I understand that engineering's out focusing on the debris removal. But again, I without us knowing any history about the capacity or the number of work for Shane to do, we'll execute the contracts as needed based on whatever their requests are.
Do you remember our third one or fourth one, for that matter? Does the price go up any? Or
Yes, sir. It goes up. It does go up some.
And is that a
we'll have to-
national one as well? Whoever the third one is.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All 3 of them go up in price. And so the question is I know some folks have asked about blended rates, so I'm going to reach out to FEMA and see if TW can give us some kind of a guidance on blended rates, because in the past they have not approved blended rates, meaning that they would allow the vendors to come to a conclusion on the average cost.
See, that's what, if we were doing it again, that would be my concern. Now, I'm not in the trash picking up business, but I was an investment banker. And if I went in and bid on bonds, and I agreed that I'd take as many bonds at a certain price, and they decided, well, we're going to go with the next person who's also going to draw down some of those bonds at a higher price, I'm not sure I'd buy as many. That's my concern. If it's not a valid concern, I'm fine. And if you're telling me it's not one, I'd say bring in as many as you can. But the next time we do it, we ought to see if there's some way in the RFP, when you bring in another one, to have a blended rate. Because I do wonder, colleagues, sincerely, why would one vendor, I think I'm right, Mr. Dice, do they have all of these trucks and people, or when they show up, they got to go hire folks? They got to find folks around the region or around the country who will come in to get it up.
I understand, Commissioner, that there's about 50 trucks already here. 36.
36 from other places, or you mean that are local subs?
No, they're brought in. They're not all local.
Okay. And if I were one of those, I would go, I don't hope they don't follow my business model. I would go wherever I'm going to get the highest rate. And when you all out picking this up, do you all decide that you're doing it by a certain precinct? The way our lines are drawn, you just go out there and pick it up. I just want to make sure you don't have them devouring one another with hiring vendors. I'm not a trash hauler, but I understand math pretty good. So when you all pick it up, do you do it by precinct, or you just do it by what's out there? You just put them out there. The way our lines are drawn, I hope you're not just doing it by 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
Hunting vendors by precinct.
Commissioner, this is Milton Rahman. Sorry, my connection was not that great. We do pick up based on debris zones.
By zones.
Not by precinct.
And the zones, I assume you do it based on geography, not precincts.
That is correct. Each
like
precinct has a lot of zones, and based on the zones, we set up the DMS monitoring, DMS sites, and all those areas. So the logistics is around the debris zones.
Okay. And Dr. Rahman, do you have any concerns about when you bring in a second one or a third one or a fourth one, whether or not they go and offer the same haulers a little more money, and whoever pays the most will get more haulers?
Commissioner, I do have some concern, but I'll tell you, when I was on the private side, when I have my subs, I give them hard contracts. So if I have a rate that they agreed with me as a sub, they shouldn't go somewhere else.
Okay. I'm going to trust your judgment. And before we lose you, our power's pretty bad here too, by the way. But I'd say bring in as many as you can if you feel comfortable with it. All right.
So
yes, sir. Investigate.
I know Commissioner Briones has a couple questions. I wanted to just get my questions real quick. You guys, I think everyone's had a couple chances to ask. So I want to just understand. So we have Tetra Tech as the monitor. So that's going to be just the one monitor still. Is that
Thompson.
okay?
Just we are gonna bring in a secondary monitor.
Okay.
That's Thompson Engineering.
Okay, and so that was already in the plan.
Yes.
Okay, and then as far as the haulers, we had DRC and anyway, so you guys are saying you're going to bring two more haulers, or how many more?
One more haulers and one more monitors.
Okay, and I could have sworn I remember having this conversation before, like after the derecho, and we decided that it wasn't a good idea for some reason. I'm just trying to remember why. And is it like, yeah, because why wouldn't we have done this before if it's such a simple solution and there's no downside?
I was told what I went through. I didn't just pull it out of the air.
Right.
I was told last time.
The other one, and then I remember having, I wish I could remember who I was talking to, but they had such a good point about, we really don't want to split this up. I don't know if it's, the same workers can't work in both places, or I don't know. Answer me this question, you guys, just for my peace of mind. If this was such a good idea, why didn't we do it earlier? And what is the potential downside of this?
Just initially, the number of tracks that was promised, and we actually investigated the same idea as well, and we thought about it, but we again, for the same reason, that there are certain risks of reimbursement, we backed out, but we did investigate this, and we thought if the debris would be a lot more, we'd do this. But at this time, considering we still have a derecho debris that we need to pick up, and this event, and also it's a widespread event along the state, we thought we need, in order to get our community back quickly, deploying a secondary vendor is a good idea.
Okay, and as far as any potential downsides of this strategy versus the previous one?
Commissioner, again, it's as Shane mentioned, there is a risk of reimbursement, and that's what we are taking to get our community back quickly.
Okay.
Our recovery done quickly.
Okay. Well, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was super clear, but I understand, and I think it's worth taking. Last question. Am I remembering correctly that at some point they agreed to 100% reimbursement? Did we achieve that with derecho, or is that never a thing?
Judge, this is Shane. We have not hit 100. We do not. It's still at 75%.
Always for debris.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Briones.
That was just for COVID. They had
Okay.
changed it to 100.
Oh yeah, it used to be something, then they changed it. Okay, I swear it's somewhere in my head. Okay. Well, we'll ask. Yes, Commissioner Briones.
Thank you. Quick question. Will the second monitor be activated tomorrow alongside the second debris collector, just to make sure it's being activated in parallel tracks?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Okay, so there's alignment there. Perfect. And then second, from a contractual standpoint, because I share the concerns about strategically aligning incentives and costs, et cetera, for the future. I know we're boxed into the four corners of how this was procured. Is this an annual renewal type of contract so that next year for the future hurricane seasons, we can align it more strategically? Or for how long are we boxed into this paradigm?
Actually,
Commissioner,
go ahead.
Our office is right now investigating, I'm talking to also Dwight, how we can set up our contracts after the discussion we had, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, and whether we need to wait for the second primary to say, hey, we cannot bring a secondary, or whether the county will have more strategic way of deploying multiple vendor without going through this hurdle and still be able to get reimbursed by FEMA. We are investigating that, looking into other communities, how they have their contracts set up, communities like City of Houston. And of course, our goal is before we come to the next hurricane season, we'll have a better plan of how we go after this recovery and have multiple options on our hand.
Perfect. Well, thank you for continuing the due diligence so that we can be as strategic and purposeful as to how we structure future paradigms for response. Thank you.
Sure. And Judge?
Yes.
I just wanted to add that one of the things we had recommended before when we were looking at this issue under derecho was the price match issue. So when we activate a secondary contract, the secondary vendor rather, they would match the first
That's the blended price, trying to see if we could do it.
Correct. Yeah. Well, not the blended, but it actually matched the original one. I think that's
can we do
we
that?
talked about in the past. And
Can we
I think
do the
Deanna can
match?
speak to it.
Are we allowed to do the match, County Administrator Ramirez?
Allowed to do which match?
I'm sorry.
The price match.
Yeah, I mean, we can, if the vendor will agree, if the secondary vendor will agree.
I think
That
it's
was
just
what the
so
issue
much
was.
work. At least we need to, try. Yeah.
For what it's worth, now I do worry about devouring another one. So obviously, I prefer you do it at the lower rate. But even if you had to do it at the higher rate, because you can have a real mess if you have the person who has more money picking up the most. I think after Harvey, I'm not sure, but after Harvey, did we get a second vendor? Do you know, Dr. Rahman? Do you know, Jay? You were here, or Shane?
Commissioner, we did go with a secondary vendor, but it was a little different situation because it was real clear the primary vendor could not perform. They wanted a price increase.
And we
at the
did not
time.
get reimbursed. So we spent about $10, $15 million extra.
Actually, yeah, that was a separate issue, and kind of to y'all's point, there was another storm hitting the East Coast, and so the haulers, because there's a limited number of them, headed to the East Coast, and so there was like a bonus payment that we the county did to try to attract them back, and there were some issues with that. We ended up going to arbitration and getting, I believe half of that back. So that was that particular instance.
And we didn't get reimbursed, obviously, for that. We paid it because we wanted to get it up, and we were willing to pay for it.
We were successful in getting half. They call it a bonus payment back then. We were successful going through arbitration, getting half of that back
From the feds? Oh.
from the feds. Yes.
Well, I'd look at that as an option, just going down the road as well. But look, I'm prepared to support a motion. One of y'all want to make one?
I make a motion
And that is to bring in the second vendor
and the second monitor.
Right.
and the second monitor. Can I make a friendly adjustment? And if need be, to bring in the third.
Of each. Okay, did you catch that, James?
Is that all right?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so it's a motion to bring in a second hauler vendor and a second monitor vendor to pick up the debris from derecho and Beryl.
And if necessary, bring in a third for both,
to bring
the
in
monitor
a
and the-
third of each one. Yeah, okay, so who made the motion?
I did.
Motion by Commissioner Ramsey, second by Commissioner Garcia. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Can I ask a quick question, just to clarify for me and for the record, the difference between the blended situation and the matching?
So Commissioner, Judge, I'm sorry, and Commissioners, so the blended rate would be basically a average of all of the costs between the two vendors. We'd basically blend those costs together. And then if not, you're going to match either the low bidder's cost or the DRC's bid of the primary or move it to the secondary, which is a higher cost. So Commissioner was asking about $2 difference. I think it's roughly $2 or $3 difference in the two. So either we have the second vendor go to the current vendor DRC's cost, or we take DRC's and move it up, or we just take a blended rate and take the average and make them both take that rate. So that's the difference in the two.
But if we do, so you guys are going to try the blended one, even though we may not get reimbursed?
Well, no, ma'am. I
Okay.
think we can ask those questions, but if court decides that we can ask those questions, but I think from Shane, from your standpoint, that may be a risk involved. But if you guys would like us to do that, we can definitely move them up or down.
I think the answer is we'll get 75% with whatever we pay. So whether
Right.
you blend it, I thought they were the same. Usually with my blender, when you put the strawberry and the bananas in, they're about even. Maybe this is different, but whatever it is, we'll get 75% period.
Okay, so we're going to look at all the possible strategies that you just listed.
Yes, ma'am, we will. That's
Okay.
based on what court's direction is.
Okay. I just want to clarify. Okay, thank you. So do we still need to move the item? What I'm seeing here is that the emergency authority was used in the interim to get debris management operations up and running. And now this is the item where we approve what has already happened. That is what I seem to recall that I was asking about earlier.
Yes, correct, Judge.
Okay, yes, I had a feeling it wasn't just a transmittal.
Yeah, now that we've done the two for the additional hauler, the additional monitor, the main item, which is those underlying contracts. So if you can just approve that. And then we've also, if we're going to continue talking about it, we probably need to do another extension. Otherwise, we can just
I'll move it so we get out of here.
Second.
So that's moving the item 278 as presented. Motion by Commissioner Ellis, second by Commissioner Briones. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And Judge, to be clear, it picks up on the second line?
After action.
After action. Okay, thank you.
And then let's move on to our resolutions. Thank you all so much for your patience. I'm sure you understand.
One last comment.
Yes.
On some comments I've made related to Centerpoint. And again, responding to a disaster is difficult, particularly one like this. We all know that. But my comments and what I'm going to be focused on in kind of the after storm review is communication. Because unless I know what the plan is, it's really hard for me to describe to people what we can do and should do. So that'll be the conversation related to communication with Centerpoint. And the second thing that I will be looking at, and I think we all will, is the location of our senior citizen centers, locations throughout our precincts. There's a large number. We know where they are. We know where they exist. And anything we can do prior to the storm to assure better restoration of power in those facilities. Those two quick comments, Judge. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Garcia and then Commissioner Ellis.
Commissioner Ramsey, thank you for touching on those because those were exactly what was on my list. I want to emphasize that on a call yesterday with the mayors in Precinct 2, communications with Centerpoint was absolutely a common thread with what was discussed. And then on the senior facilities, I want to thank AARP for their support. They have been just phenomenal at working with our various senior living facilities. But you're absolutely right. We need to make sure that those are always top of mind. So thank you.
Commissioner Ellis.
Judge,
Commissioner Brown.
in addition to all of our staffs, and not just the folks who are behind us, but, those who are out there, those people out there in the hot, many of them did not have power themselves who are out there working. I want to thank them. My staff as well, even went out on Saturday and Sunday. I went and we had one person who ended up with heat exhaustion. EMS took him in. I haven't caught him yet, but I think he's fine. Won't call his name out, but I hope he's doing fine. But all our teams did a great job, and I hope they know how much we appreciate it. And the other departments who sent folks out. And Deanne, I don't know if I'll make a motion at some point later on today, but we ought to find some way that there's a central clearing pool. So those employees who do get overtime, one of our judges called me to tell me a few places where they needed help. And I said, look, I will get to it, but my staff's just stretched. Then I thought about it and called her back and I said, hey, Judge, can you go to that facility for me and drop off some stuff? And then I said, I think your employees will get paid for it to go and do it, particularly some of those hourly workers. And I was amazed. I went out to Hester House. The judge was there and her entire team. Which is when I called you because I've been a while, I just forgotten. But we ought to find some central way that all of these departments know that they can come and help. And obviously, if it's a weekend or the last minute after hours, but it just meant so much to just see so many of our employees out there without power themselves, being out in the heat and then going back to a hot home, and people bringing their children out because they couldn't leave their children unsupervised. But we're so appreciative to all of those volunteers. I have to do a shout out for the Salvation Army because some folks had hot meals and the people call and say, where's the hot meal? This meal ready to eat stuff is better than nothing, but we want some hot meals. And somebody from Lubbock, a family came in, husband and wife, 2 husband and wife teams drove that truck in from Lubbock and they were out there serving hot meals, and it was just amazing. So I want to thank all of them, not just my team, but all of those folks in Harris County and surrounding counties that helped. Thank you.
And Judge and Commissioners, also, I'd love to be able to work with all your offices to get an after-action report once things settle down a little bit, and work with everybody to figure out, what's being done well. There's a lot that's being done really well, and where the gaps are, so that we are prepared for the next one. And each time we're learning more, and there's a lot of new staff in different departments, so that also adds a little bit to the confusion. But we'd love to be able to fill the gaps as we move forward, in collaboration with all your offices.
Commissioner Briones.
I share your sentiments in terms of sheer gratitude to all of the team members who stepped up across the county and across the cities, nonprofits, for-profit. What I know we can all be here all day with the stories. My heart was breaking time and time again as the seniors would show up to cooling centers, or moms with babies, pregnant women, pets. I mean, all of us could talk about all the homes we visited. But the bottom line is, what I kept returning to is we are the energy capital of the world. How can over 2.2 million people not have power? And more when you look at the region. And so I look forward to working in a collaborative, bipartisan way with state leadership to see what regulatory changes we need. Also to explore new financing tools, which I know we're working on with Commissioner Dawn Buckingham of the GLO, hopefully to bring in SEFI, the State Energy Financing Initiative, very low interest loans to do for the first time here in Texas, or Solar for All. I'm so thankful to President Biden. So we'll have some extra resiliency in the region it's a both and, we can continue being the global leader of energy and lead the energy transition. And that's what our people deserve, and so I look forward to more answers. I look forward to heightened communication, but doing it in a way that we can advance the ball, because when people are questioning, should I stay and continue living here? Yet the answer is yes. And together we all need to be a part of the solution. So I'm just really thankful. And while I know our hearts are heavy, I'm optimistic that we will continue learning, iterating, and improving, because that's what the people deserve.
Thank you, Commissioner. One note for Administrator Ramirez, if you could please coordinate that with our Office of Emergency Management. We have a sort of after action report, culture, and obviously we fit in there. The other point is on Centerpoint. So I think that the step to require a report by them is important, and it's necessary. What I'm going to keep pushing for is some sort of comparison to best practices. Ideally, an evaluation that will look at sort of audit to see if they've been implementing their vegetation management plan fully and in good faith, and if it's well done, comparing the budget and the plan to peer jurisdictions, and best practices. The thing that puzzles me is, if we say they need to repair vegetation near power lines, well, there's a lot of that all over the place. As I was reading the news about that, I was driving and I was seeing all the vegetation right next to power lines. So I would like to understand really how it's supposed to work. And so I just want to share sort of what my focus is going to be longer term. I also want to put, and this is my last point, another plug for the future flood bond and really shifting gears, or at least having a parallel track, because with the rain during Beryl, people did see the usual street flooding that may be a nuisance, but it's really scary. We did have some structure flooding. We did have our bayous and channels quite high or over the edge, and the same communities that are talking about the trees were also talking about the flooding, and they very much recognize that whatever project is being done is not enough. So I just want to ask my colleagues again for support in that, because we've been talking about working for the next bond since 2019, and I don't know that any meaningful progress has been done. So anyway, can we discuss that given the impacts on Beryl, Jay, or is this somehow problematic?
No, I think we can. It just depends on how broad you guys go.
Yeah. So anyway, what do you guys think about that? Because from my memory, like I kind of bring it up and nobody else seems excited about it. So am I the only one pushing for this, and am I not understanding a reason why we shouldn't be pushing for it?
So, Judge, I'll say that you're probably the only one pushing for it right now because the work still, I mean, we're halfway into the bond, I think. And so there's still a lot of work in front of us. However, I do want to commend the Flood Control District that for the work that has been done, it is absolutely visible. You know, with Derecho, I think we've had maybe less than 100 reported structural flooding. Sylvan Beach wasn't as fortunate, but Sylvan Beach Pavilion rather. But I just want to commend all the work that Flood Control District has done with the resources. It was a little discombobulated earlier until Commissioner Buckingham came in and put us on a better track. But the work that's been done has absolutely been visible. So I am hearing quite the contrary. I'm hearing that neighborhoods are seeing a visible difference, and they just want to see how much more work we can get done. However, we still have those resources, so I don't think we're yet ready to start trying to tell the citizens that we'll need another one. I will be ready for it. I do absolutely think we should keep the pace for the work that has been done. Maintenance will be a big part of the conversation, as Commissioner Ramsey has put up. Has made visible or vocal, been vocal about that. So we'll have to talk about that. But absolutely, with this storm in combination with Derecho, the minimal, I mean, any home, if it were my home, I'd be disappointed. But the minimal number of reported structural flooding has just been incredible. After these two events, that's the first question I've been asking my staff. What do we have reported? And I think I have, the conversation has typically been here as of late, I think we're in the tens. So Dr. Peterson, thank you and your team for all of your incredible work.
Commissioner Ellis.
Judge, I want to get Dr. Peterson's thought, but I just make this broad comment. I was here when we decided to do the Harvey bond package, and there were discussions in private about, maybe someone made the comment at the table. I think a study came out showing the need with someone in the neighborhood. Tom, you were watching it, I know. Was that a $30 billion figure? It was $30 billion. One of my colleagues at the table mentioned that we ought to do $10 billion. And I look back and wish I'd said, make a motion. I should say, I'll make a motion, to just kind of call it out. But I would be sensitive to how much we can spend, how long it would take to spend it. And I would be very sensitive to the voters' appetite. I've been fortunate to have been in office all these years and not have to look at polling data to figure out what position to take. But polling data does give you some sense, maybe not an accurate sense, but some sense of what the public thinks. I'm sensitive to bond issues that have passed, not to stir up anything, where people thought it was going to go one place, transportation, and it went somewhere else. One place, a drainage fee, it went somewhere else. The school district's going to put a very large bond issue out there. So I'm sensitive to what the appetite would be. But the other side of the argument is if you wait too long, you may be so far at the back of the line you can't get it when you really do need it. I think that $1 billion that we were talking about, there's been no more discussion on that issue, on that money. I think all of us at one point was saying we thought we were entitled to it. And, the Department of HUD said we were entitled to as well. And I guess it's over somewhere DOJ, Department of Justice. And we won't know what happens to that until after the election, one way or the other. I hope it's independent of it. But that just may be. that just may be lost. But I know at some point we're all going to run out of money. I'll say it. People may not like it, but I'll say it. You know, cost of doing projects has gone up. It's going to be a challenge. And then, you know, it was a big push to go start doing something on everything, but not much discussion about can you finish it. But, and I would say on the structure issue, you know, we had water. We didn't have Harvey water. So I'm willing to bet,
Category 1.
yeah, most of the structure issues we'll have will be the unluck all these trees we've been wanting to plant. Now people are telling me they don't want the trees. I hope that attitude will change, you know. But
Judge,
trees help us in other ways.
If we could just keep this discussion in the context of the specific cleanup efforts. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sure. I want to hear from Dr. Peterson.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Ellis. So I would say one of the things, you know, I think Commissioner Garcia, Ramsey, Briones, I think you all have highlighted the fact that, you know, we have made progress. I have to say thank you to the flood control team. Not only have they been working on removing debris from the channels already where we can, assessing damage, working 12 and 16-hour days. We have also been working to very, very quickly spin up some modeling efforts to help us understand how many of the damages that could have happened have been avoided. We are still working on this. You have to understand it takes a lot of time, a lot of review and details. But what I can tell you is that we have avoided hundreds of homes from being flooded in the Braze Bayou watershed, for example, thanks to Project Braze, which was completed since Harvey. That is really exciting. We have, you know, the South Shaver Stormwater Detention Basin that we just recently completed. That is a huge basin that without a doubt has made an impact. And so we know that these projects have made a difference. We know Sims Bayou, although it hasn't been a recently completed project since Harvey, that is a tremendous project that has reduced the risk of flooding for thousands of homes. So, you know, the work that we're doing is making a difference. We're able to quantify it. We will continue to quantify it. And as we're looking towards the next steps, you know, where we are at right now, our priorities are, number one, you know, making sure that we deliver on the CDBG program. I am so thankful for the confidence that the GLO has placed in us, and we need to make sure that we deliver on that program. Because if we are not able to meet these deadlines, we will face funding being taken away. And that is not something that I know I want or anyone at the table wants. We all are committed to seeing these dollars spent in our community and seeing the best benefit. The other thing I do want to highlight when I think about what the next bond program needs to look like, you know, we are focused on finishing the projects. Right now, we've finished about 40. We have another, I think it was 20. Let me just make sure my numbers. Yes, about 20 in construction and another 30 in design. So we are well on our way for over half these projects. But what I want to see is more progress so that we can show the public what we have done. And I also want to make sure that we are really thoughtful about how we approach the next bond. The 2018 bond was obviously created as a response to Hurricane Harvey. It came together very quickly. And truth be told, we are still doing some work to get clarity, to get some of the details of that program worked out. I feel confident that we are there now, but I don't want to rush in to the next bond. I want to make sure that we're intentional, we have clear priorities, and that we really go into that effort with a clear vision of what we want to accomplish so that those who come later aren't still trying to figure it out 5 years later. So that would be my perspective. I feel the urgency greatly to see progress, and I want to see it as fast as possible, I think like all of you. And I want to also make sure that how we approach our work is going to be at the standard that we want to deliver to our community.
Commissioner Ramsey. Oh, yeah.
Judge?
Yes.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, we had another 10 minutes. If we want to continue extending, we need to do a motion. Second thing is if we want to talk about the current bond in the context of cleanup efforts and how it's helping mitigate derecho and Beryl, I think that's fine. If we're going to talk about the next bond, we should probably put that on a subsequent court agenda.
Is an item on the agenda update on the bond issue? This
There
court?
is.
So if we were doing an update on this bond issue, Jay, wouldn't that be broad enough to talk about?
Yes, that's
needing additional money? Because I think there is an
on this bond. Now, I know that Dr. Peterson was alluding to sort of things for the next bond, and I just want to sort of rein us into this bond.
I'll
That's
keep
all.
it to this.
Which is what the judge had actually talked
And
about.
I'll keep it to this incident, which is the destruction that I saw. And, everything Dr.
Judge,
Peterson
before,
said.
before you do that, the 10 minutes. I just wanna-
Motion, yeah. Motion by Commissioner Ellis.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Briones. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So I agree with every single word you said. And, yes, the flood control district has worked hard. I acknowledged them earlier. I'll acknowledge them again. Yes, there has been work done. It's obvious. I mean, we read about it, that the areas that normally flood, like Meyerland, for example, was just right at the edge. And Buffalo Bayou held for the most part, and or it reached its bank. Braze, not too bad. Clear Creek, not bad. Generally, very little structural flooding this time. I also agree that the bond that's currently being implemented to mitigate the kinds of damages we saw was done haphazardly, and it was not enough, and we all agree with that. So you're not telling me anything I don't know. What I'm trying to talk about is the fact that we can walk and chew gum and figure out how to walk and chew gum, and I've brought that up before, and this all very much sounds like excuses to me, because we in 2019 started working on this. So this has been going on, 2018 for the bond. That's 6 years. So 6 more years until we have a different one or start working on it. CDBG is 5 years old. So that's what we're going to focus on, is something that's 5 years old. I mean, I think I don't see that there is a problem with working to better mitigate the kinds of impacts that we did have during Beryl and have had many times. We were Category 1. We barely squeaked by, so we can't just celebrate that and say, okay, next, we've done good work. The end. We all do good work, and we don't just all go home because we've done good work for the past 5 years, 2 years, 8 years. We go forward. We can't just sit on our laurels and clap at ourselves. So in 2019, we passed a motion where we could have even done better this time. In 2019, we passed the Community Flood Resilience Task Force to work on this, and it has not. And I have had various conversations about how it's not doing what it was set out to do. And so, I mean, I guess I'll go to the community and ask them whether they would like somebody to be working on a different bond. If you don't have the capacity, as you and I discussed, split your department to request a whole other I don't know. But it seems like you're having a different conversation with me, Director, than you're having here in open court, because we have spoken about the fact that we need to work on a separate bond. So, and whether it passes, the only bond that has not passed is the Astrodome one. Do the polling, but work on it. So, I mean, I'm hearing not the will. I don't really understand why. I agree with everything everybody has said. Those are not reasons not to work on something we promised and voted on starting in 2019 when we barely squeaked through. I don't think even your hardworking employees would say, okay, that's it. We've solved. Let's go. And let's just keep working on what was passed. Kingwood always comes close. We had Clear Creek come close. So all these areas, sure, we've done the project. We have money for the project. We have been very clear and have had the conversation that the money assigned to those areas is not enough to even begin to manage what needs to happen. So I'm glad to have this open discussion. because I want the community to hear where everybody stands. And if people think that, whether it's the director or whether it's the members, think that there is no real need for this, then fine. And I would like to hear what you have to say, because obviously I heard your side and I'm mentioning mine, director, and I appreciate the work you do, but I'm really expecting and hoping that we can look forward as opposed to keep looking back and saying we have to take years before we even begin to plan for the future. So what do you think, director?
So, of course, we want to lean in. We want to lean in and move quickly.
Or rather, let me say, what do you disagree with that I say?
What I think my concern is, it comes down to priorities, right? The thing that I think about is we are already doing the work internally to line out projects that would be appropriate for the next bond. We are doing planning studies, thanks to the CDBG funding, that will help us identify what that next bench of projects looks like. So we are doing the work to lay the groundwork so we can have a successful bond. So it's not like we are just waiting. We are absolutely cataloging, looking, and frankly, we're not even waiting for a next bond. We look every time an opportunity comes out from FEMA, opportunities come out from our federal partners, from our state partners, to see, do we have a project? How does it line up with priorities so that we can move it forward?
I know, but that's not transformational. We can talk about every little bit we get here
Judge,
and there.
may I be in the
Yes,
queue?
Commissioner.
Thank you.
Yes. Well,
Dr. Peterson, I just want to thank you. Thank you again, because look, there is a process.
And I'm not saying thank you.
Excuse me, I've got the floor.
I'm not saying that.
I've got the
Ramsey
floor.
had the floor before you, Commissioner.
So I want to thank you, Dr. Peterson, again for your work. There is a process to this. It is, I did have issues with how Harvey was put together. I thought and still feel that plans were just pulled off the shelf. And I tried here many times to correct that. Didn't have any support in getting that done. But nonetheless, we are moving forward, and there's still years in front of us. And so until more of the work gets done, it is, I'll look to the engineer and Commissioner Ramsey, but until the work is done, we still don't know what we will be asking voters for in the future. And so I think it's important that the strategy for flood mitigation be developed, but the flood mitigation strategy from what was Harvey to what will be in the next 5 years, it's going to be different. It's going to be very different. And so, we have to allow the people who know this work the best to guide us on these conversations. And so, although we haven't had a whole lot of conversations about this, Dr. Peterson, I just want to thank you and your team for all you're doing. And
agreed.
You continue to do the good work that you're doing, and hopefully we'll allow you to have that space. So thank you.
Commissioner Ramsey and then Commissioner Ellis.
In response to future bond issues and in response to where we are and timetables, I would simply say, I'll start with, this is the third storm that we've survived and are trying to survive. The early May created more water in Precinct 3 coming from the north than Harvey. And let me tell you, categories don't matter in hurricanes. One of the worst flooding events in Harris County history was Tropical Storm Allison. So some are flooding events, some are wind events, some are a combination. So it ends up being all of that. But the good news is, from what I can tell, our flood control, unlike any agency in America, is processing that flood information to make it better in the next time. I think we're close, Judge. I really do think we're close to saying, you know what, we've done this is what's been built, this is what we've learned from what we've already built. And I'm telling you, we've got some pretty futuristic things out there, like a $32 billion tunnel system. Now, that's transformational. That would knock the socks off of Harris County if we do that. So I want to tell the citizens of Harris County, when we're going through 3 storm events like we've done this year, and we're not sitting on our laurels, what we are doing is, hey, what about tunnels? And thank you and Congressman Lizzie Fletcher and Congressman Hunt as they advocated, because the Corps was trying to kill the tunnel project, but those 2 warriors stood up and they made it happen. So we are identifying, planning, going forward. And I think we're probably close to getting to the point of saying, let's have the bond issue. I want to hear more from the feds in terms of them paying 75% of it. But there are some things I think that are there. I think we're close to having many more of those detailed conversations.
Commissioner Briones?
Dr. Peterson, thank you for being here and thank you for all of the work that you and your team do day in and day out. My sentiment is always it's a both end. First, we need to deliver the projects that the government has committed to for the people from the 2018 bond. We need to get that done with excellence under the aggressive CDBG timetable, and I thank Commissioner Buckingham for helping us set reset, so now we can have the funding to get it done. Number 1, we need to complete. 2, we need to maintain our current assets and these forthcoming ones, which I look forward to delving into that item later today. Third, to Commissioner Ramsey's point, I know that you all are planning for the future in terms of the planning studies, plus you've actively been partnering with us and Congresswoman Fletcher and Hunt as we try to save the BBTRS, which is a deep tunnel study, as we have submitted a 7001 study request so we can add additional capacity at Barker and Addicks, which, in Precinct 4, we have 2 of the 6 most dangerous dams in the nation, and we all remember vividly what happened during Harvey. So I feel that y'all are racing, and not just parallel tracks, because it's more than 2, multiple tracks. And I look forward to, in several years, being at the position where we have completed the vast majority of the 2018 projects, plus we've kickstarted some of these longer-term transformational projects in collaboration with the feds, and then we can go back to the people. But I think it's incumbent upon us to deliver with excellence, and then we can come back and continue to show the progress. So I'm thankful. And I personally, the Braze Bayou is also in another portion of Precinct 4. And so I was energized by seeing what better position we were in with Beryl than we had been in the past. So I know your deep commitment, and you are always running to find better ways to protect Harris County. So at this point in time, in sum, I defer to the expert, which is you, and we need to deliver these projects. That is the top priority, and we are on standby to continue assisting in any way we can. So I thank you.
Lost Jay. Yes, Commissioner Ellis.
Judge, I don't think that any of us are that far apart in terms of what we're saying. And Dr. Peterson, you are doing a great job. I don't think any of us intended to hear you say, if we'd have given you the $10 billion, you couldn't have spent it. So if there were 3 votes up here, or hopefully 5 votes to go do another bond issue, we'd do it. It doesn't mean that we could spend it right away. But I think sometimes it's easy for us to get caught up in congratulating ourselves and one another. That's just part of the nomenclature. And not only did we do it, our predecessors did it. But when Harvey came, what we did was react. And that number floated from $500 million to as high as $10 billion. And it was this close to going down to $1 billion, I'm guessing, Commissioner Ramsey, because somebody was looking at polling data. And back then, the assumption was folks in Precinct 1 and 2 at the time were the ones that would be more apt to vote for it. And I pretty much said, there's no way you're going to get to Greens and Halls. And this is all talk, and I'm not going to vote for it, and I'm going to campaign against it. And we were really trying to be shrewd, put it on the ballot in August, which was a leap of faith because so many people were out of town. So what we did was pass the largest bond issue with the smallest number of people voting, maybe in the history of the country. It worked. We probably wouldn't get permission from the state to do that again. We voted on the anniversary of Harvey. I did mention our county attorney because that's an update on the bond issue on the ballot. I think we're safe because I know whether we're going to say it or not. All of the projects we've started, we don't have enough money to finish all of them. So obviously at some point, discussion will have to be had on additional money. Now, that's not going to come in right away. And so really we get to when we decide, or when there are 3 or hopefully 5 of us who are willing to vote to take that risk. And I would just say for the record, it's unlikely we get permission and spend $1 million to go have an election on a non-uniform election date. So whenever we get to that point, when there are 3, hopefully 5 votes to do it, it'll be on a uniform election date. And we'll have to make that case. But I think it's fair to say when we get to that item later, we'll get to talk about it. But I'd hate to put you on the record. I don't think you want to go on the record and say that all the projects we've started, we got enough money to finish them. You know, that'll be an uphill climb. So at some point we'll reach it. I just hope for my colleagues, only one stepped out now, but I hope we'll be futuristic enough not to just leave it here for our successors.
Large number of the 2018 bond issues, to be perfectly clear, were studies.
Yeah.
That will follow construction projects. So I think the preparation for that next bond issue is well underway.
Yeah, and that'll take some time to get there. But even if we want to do tunnels, that's very futuristic. You know, but don't think we're going to bank on the federal government to do as much of it as we think. And, you know, people in other parts of the world, sometimes they have to step up and do it. We are bigger than 25 states. So with all of us, I don't think we're all that far apart. So I don't, and any time, you know, we had a discussion, it's never directed at you all, because I think if you've heard 3 or 4 of us up here say, yeah, we're ready to go take that heat right now, I doubt that you'd say, oh no, don't do it. So I don't think that was the intent if one of us heard it that way.
We have said, if my memory serves me correctly, and I'll look at it, Commissioner Ellis, that we have said we're down to do that in the past, but I'm a look because I misremember things sometimes.
Hey,
Judge.
I'd be for it, but it would take enough of us to do it.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Judge, I know we're talking about item 126, but we've also been past 10 minutes on this. Do we want to extend time and continue, or do you want to go to the resolutions?
Okay, I think it's it. Thank you, Director, and to the Flood Control District again. Okay, same. Everyone appreciates your work. Okay, so let's move on to resolutions. So that is starting with the first one, and it's a sad resolution, but also happy because of what this person achieved. So as you all know, the community leader and business scion and Glenn Gondo died recently. When I first got involved in politics, everybody said, you have to know him. And over the years, I found him to be very humble, very caring, in addition to the way he has led in terms of opportunities for the Asian American community. Whereas Glenn Gondo was born in California in 1948. In 1962, he moved with his family to Dallas to open the first sushi restaurant in Texas, and he studied economics at North Texas State University in 1967. His family opened the first Japanese restaurant in Houston, called Tokyo Gardens, and he moved to Houston in 1984 to become its general manager. By 1987, he had started a sushi catering business and had set up sushi bars in Fiesta supermarkets and standalone sushi bars. He also began consulting for Japanese companies like Toshiba, started an international trade business, and joined a joint venture that now manages 35 retail stores at Bush Intercontinental Airport. 2002, he opened the first sushi bar in HEB, selling out on the first day. This led to sushi bars in over 290 HEBs across Texas and in other grocery stores like Albertsons across the United States. He was a pillar in the Asian American Pacific Islander community and was dedicated to promoting Japanese culture, inclusivity, and diversity in the daily lives of Harris County residents. He was the founder of the Japan Festival and helped build the Asia Society Texas Center, Chinese Community Center, and Hope Clinic. He was an important figure in the Houston area business community. He was on the board of the Greater Houston Partnership, Japan America Society of Houston, Greater Houston Convention Center, and United Way, believing it was important for Asian Americans to be visible and involved in mainstream activities to eliminate stereotypes. He lived a life of impact, indeed, and he was ready with a kind word and cared about others. He passed on July 1st at 75 years old, is survived by his wife of over 50 years, Kathy, his son Robert, and his daughter-in-law, Jaewon. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Harris County Commissioners Court proudly celebrates the life of Glenn Yoshiaki Gondo in Harris County, Texas. And so my condolences to the family and all my love to you guys and for Glenn Gondo and the incredible man that he was and all of the things that continue to grow from the actions he took. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Donna Cole with Cole Chemical, a good friend of Glenn's. And as all of you know, you all knew Glenn and he supported all your work in the community. You know, one of Glenn's passions was to reduce discrimination and to ensure that there was diversity at the table and a voice, and you guys exhibit that tremendously. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you today Glenn's son, Robert. And Robert was born in Houston. He went to Kincaid. He went to University of Georgia as an undergrad and finished off his MBA at the University of Michigan. He had several other jobs because Glenn wanted to make sure he had some other experience, and he also came to him from Amazon. And so he's been here since 2018, has not been into the community like Glenn because he's been working in the business. But I want you guys to really know him and help him in the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioners. Judge, thank you for joining with us in our community to, I think, mourn the passing of Mr. Gondo, but also really to celebrate his life, everything that he's accomplished, but to celebrate him as a role model for our community. For me personally, he was a mentor, he was a role model, he was one of my first supporters, and he was somebody who I could always go to and get sage advice. And my love for him is about his love for our community and his love for Houston and for everyone around him. He was a man of a few words. He was very modest about what he had, but he was very generous with everything that he had, with his time, with his money, and with his love. And we do not have enough time to sing his praises, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you for taking the opportunity to let me speak here today. My father, Glenn Gondo, moved to Houston in 1984 and spent the rest of his life working to improve the city and the community around him. He was so proud of Houston's diversity and was a constant optimist about its future. He credited his success in business to starting in the city of Houston that he's come to love so much, and how welcoming the leaders and government officials have always been, and he enjoyed the partnership and friendship with all of you. And I've taken over Glenn's business and all his responsibilities and look forward to continue working with you in the community. So our family has a deep, deep appreciation for Houston, Harris County, and the officials that work so hard to make this the amazing place it is. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Mr. Robert Gondo. Commissioner Garcia and then Commissioner Briones.
Robert, Donna, Jane, thank y'all for being here. Donna, I last saw Glenn with you over at the restaurant when we were both there. And Tokyo Gardens was where I took my future wife to be.
Oh, wow.
When I was just trying to impress her. And so, listen, Robert, your dad has, he deserves a title being called Glenn Houston Gondo because he gave us so much. and we're so grateful for that. And so the challenge for you is that you've got a legend that you will be stepping in. But judging from what Donna laid out, your daddy knew well that he wanted to prepare you to have your own space and your own time and your own impact on our great community. And so thank you for stepping in and picking up where your dad placed things and provided for us. And so we're so grateful for everything. He was just the gentleman. Always, whenever I came across him, he was just sweet and kind and gracious to recognize and take time, always made you feel like you're the only guy in the room. And so just always respectful and mindful of the man your father was, and always appreciate his kindness and support and just thoughtfulness to me personally, but to our entire community. He really worked hard to think that he could know every name of every person in this great city. And that's just the way he lived his life. And so, Robert, our condolences are with you. Our prayers are with you. But just to let you know that the Gondo name sits in a very, very high place. No elected official can claim even a level as close as where the Gondo name is at. Thank you so much, and our condolences are with you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Briones.
Yes, I share those sentiments, Commissioner Garcia, and thank you, Judge, for bringing this resolution. Robert, I'm so sorry about your dad. I'm sorry for your loss and your family's loss. Mrs. Cole, Representative Wu, all of us hold him in the highest esteem. And one thing I remember so beautifully about him is he was a uniter. And in these challenging times, we need more uniters. And so in honor and respect of Mr. Gondo and everything he has done for our community, I hope we all hold a piece of Mr. Gondo and work to be uniters, because I think he did that in a way with such integrity, such humility, such warmth, and just such passion and commitment. So may he rest in peace and power, and may we all carry that uniter in him. And we are just, our deepest condolences, Robert, to you and your family.
Commissioner Ellis.
Robert, you do have some big shoes to fill, but he trained you well. I knew your dad long before you were born, even before I was in politics. And Gene Wu, he always spoke very highly of you, including Representative Wu, calling folks to put a little squeeze on to spend time with you. And Donna, thank you so much for being the friend that you've been. So it's a great loss, but a great legacy. And did he know how to live life? He took advantage of every day, every year to its fullest. So it's a great loss, but we're going to remember him very fondly. Thank you.
Thank you all. And I'm imagining y'all were sitting for so long, and it's such an important commemoration of Glenn Gondo, but I hope you understand that we needed to deal with the disaster-related items first. But we very much respect and appreciate all of you and his memory. So we have just a few resolutions, shouldn't take long, and then we'll take pictures if you guys are able to hang tight for just a couple minutes. I have a second resolution I'll briefly read. It is to designate July as Uterine Fibroid Awareness Month in Harris County. Uterine fibroids are the most common benign tumors that occur in women of all ages that can grow to be a 1/4 inch wide all the way to the size of a grapefruit and are estimated to affect up to 80% of all women by the time they're 50. The overall incidence is estimated to disproportionately and more severely impact Black and Hispanic women. The rate is 3 times greater in Black women and 2 times greater in Hispanic women compared to Caucasian women. Uterine fibroids can cause women to have a wide range of symptoms such as severe pelvic pain, intense uterine bleeding, abdominal or pelvic swelling, etc. Uterine Fibroid Awareness Month is utilized to help bring awareness to the diagnosis of fibroids and how they can affect women, as well as how to properly treat them. Although the occurrence is higher than that of any other medical condition in women, these symptoms are often attributed to other causes. Harris County Commissioners Court is raising awareness and encourages that you check with a physician if you experience any symptoms and get an annual physical exam. Be it resolved that Harris County Commissioners Court proudly proclaims July 2024 as Uterine Fibroid Awareness Month. Do we have any speakers on that item?
Dr. John Fisher.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. John Fisher. I am the medical director of Fibroid Institute Houston, and I do appreciate the opportunity to speak today, especially in light of all of the recent storm-related events. In 2021, the state of Texas acknowledged the month of July as Uterine Fibroid Awareness Month with House Bill 166. I would like to thank Judge Hidalgo and the commissioners of this court for this proclamation and the acknowledgement demonstrating their support in this worthy endeavor. I've spent much of my 25-year medical career educating women about and treating uterine fibroids. And I've been fortunate to work with a large number of wonderful other women's healthcare professionals in this task. And I asked some of them to join me today, which they were unable to due to prior clinical obligations. But together, we will work to educate and provide the best possible care to women with fibroids going forward. Today's proclamation will help to increase community awareness and further align our local community in the goals established by the state in 2021. So thank you.
Thank you so much. What have you found to be best in terms of raising awareness, talking about the symptoms, it sounds like?
Well, it's, what I've done throughout my career is a multi-pronged approach. I educate at the public level, directly to women, and also at the professional level to other physicians in terms of different treatment options, because the good news for women is there are a lot of other treatment options available today that weren't available even in the recent past.
So it's relatively easy to treat?
No, I mean, the symptoms, as you mentioned, can be quite debilitating, but the good news for women today is there are a lot more options available than there used to be, and it's just a matter of trying to educate women as to what those options are, because not one treatment option is best for every patient.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm glad to learn more about this and continue spreading the word about the symptoms and the fact that there is treatment and women don't have to live with these symptoms. And so let me just read all of them. So severe pelvic pain, intense uterine bleeding, abdominal or pelvic swelling, changes in urinary frequency, excessive or painful bleeding during menstruation. And of course, there can be reduced quality of life, which can make normal daily activities difficult to nearly impossible. And I see why you need to educate physicians as well. Thank you so much. Women's health is so often forgotten, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Ellis, you don't have any resolutions out of order, is that right? Commissioner Garcia.
I'll be brief. This is just to recognize that storms, like other events, remind us that we have a lot of strays in our community. And so this is just recognizing the Clear the Shelters nationwide adoption event, and just would encourage everyone that if you got space in your home for a furry critter, they're cute, they're loving, and they don't talk back. Well, they bark, and yeah, I guess. But listen, consider adopting. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramsey, I don't see any resolutions out of order. Oh, did we have any speakers? Yeah.
There was one speaker,
Thank
Corey
you.
Steele.
I caught it. Okay. Oh, so cute. Okay.
So I brought one that does not talk back. He's very quiet today. Very good. But Commissioner Garcia, thank you. My name's Corey Steele. I'm the director at Veterinary Public Health, runs Harris County Pets. Thank you for bringing Clear the Shelters, the awareness to it. This is a national event. We participated in all the years past, and it's been very successful for us. So August 10th through September 10th, we will have free adoptions. All of our pets will be vaccinated, neutered, microchipped, and we have plenty to choose from. So I asked the community to come out and look. This morning, I saw we're about 420 dogs and another 250 cats. So, just like the rest of the shelters in the region, we're full. So I appreciate it.
Good deal. What's this guy's name?
This guy's name is Cookie. I thought that Cookie was going to be available for adoption when I brought him up here. He already has a hold, which is a good thing.
Oh, good.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have plenty more.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Well, Cookie, we're hiring in the canine units, so consider applying.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Corey, thank you
yes, sir.
for your work. I know I've got an item later recognizing the Austin Bulldog Rescue Group. I think we're working out an agreement with that. I don't think Cookie would qualify to be a part of that particular elite association. But we used to have a lot of different agreements with entities like that. So you and I can have a separate conversation on reaching out to some of these other organizations.
Yep.
I appreciate specifically what you do.
I appreciate that. And one more thing, if you don't mind, I want to thank all of you, including County Administrator, for the support we've had over the last year. It's been very incredible from all of you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, and I'm glad we're reviving the veterinary group that you led on, Commissioner Ramsey, and I hope that it's been successful. The trying to get the word out by all of us. We'll keep working on it.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
So cute.
Thank you.
We just need to persuade my fiance that we need another cat.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Commissioner Ramsey, no resolutions out of order. Commissioner Briones.
Precinct 4, we have 2 resolutions. So first, number 4, and thank you all for your patience. We are going to honor the life of Chef Alex Au-Yeung. And I know his wife, Queenie Au-Yeung, is here. Thank you so much for being here. I know their son and daughter, Ivan and Ivana, had to go. Kimberly Park, Jordana Harris, and Rebecca Valentino from Fat Eatery. Please feel free to join us up here as we celebrate the life and the legacy. Chef Alex Au-Yeung was born in 1972 in Malaysia, raised in Hong Kong, and he moved to Houston at the age of 19. Before pursuing his culinary aspirations, Chef Au-Yeung's entrepreneurial spirit led him towards several business ventures. He opened his restaurant, Fat Eatery, in Katy, Asia Town in 2018, which I'm so proud is in Precinct 4. Fat Eatery, if you have not been already, offers Malaysian and an array of Asian street food. And he strived and succeeded spectacularly at creating a hospitable and familial culture. The restaurant has garnered much recognition under his leadership. It was named one of Houston Chronicle's top 100 restaurants and the Asian Chamber of Commerce's Rising 10 Award. Chef Au-Yeung also received a James Beard nomination for Best Chef, the Texas Restaurant Association's Face of Diversity Award, and the 2023 Texas Restaurant Association's People Choice Award, among many other accolades. In addition to being an entrepreneur who would teach entrepreneurialism to so many in the community, he was known for just his unwavering support and mentorship for other small business owners, other Asian-owned businesses, and he stepped up always, especially we saw it during the COVID pandemic. His memory will live on through everyone who knew him, especially his loving wife, Queenie. Thank you for being here, and our deepest condolences to you and your family, and his son and his daughter, and to the Fat Eatery family, and to all of the patrons. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Harris County Commissioners Court respectfully honors the life, impact, and legacy of Chef Alex Au-Yeung. We are so sorry for your loss, Queenie.
Thank you. What a sweet introduction. I'm so honored to be here. Good afternoon, Judge and Commissioner. My name is Queenie Au-Yeung. I'm Alex's wife. Alex is the founder and owner of Fat Eatery. Just like so many businessmen, he never get the instant success. He spent 30 years to earn his business experience before Eatery opened in 2018. During the COVID event, we were really blessed to have a stable business. So Alex decided to give back to the society. He privately and publicly donated food to the hospital staff and the needy. He also helped his peers and even the competitors. He passed away in the beginning of this year after a short battle with
Please continue.
His life was short, but it's really meaningful. Thank you so much, Harris County Precinct, for recognizing Alex and Fat Eatery. It means a lot to our team. That made me realize that when you do good thing, people knows. And please allow me to have 10 more seconds. I would like to recognize and thank someone. As you know, a successful business cannot be built by only one man. I would like to use this opportunity to recognize and thank my director, Kevin Lee, Marvin He, and my wonderful PR, Kimberly Park team. Thank you. Thank you very much to have me today.
Queenie,
Thank you.
I just want to thank you, Commissioner Briones. Just want to share with you that we're grateful, just like we were talking about Mr. Gondo. Your husband and I absolutely shared some of the best part of your culture with so many and with the rest of us, and so we're grateful for that. But I do have a question: who was the real chef at home, you or him?
We both really enjoy cooking. Yes,
Wonderful.
yes. And now my son is picking up the cooking skill too.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Our condolences are with you, but we're grateful to you and your family for sharing him with us. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you so much to have me today.
Mrs. Au-Yeung, thank you so much for sharing him with us and for telling this story. As you know, I'm an immigrant as well, so I love hearing his story. I did a little bit of work in Malaysia, so it's very close to heart. And I have to admit, I have not visited, even though I went to high school in Katy. So I will be making my way over there. And I'm so sorry that he passed at such a young age. But it sounds like you've got a wonderful team around you and your children, and we want to shower you with love as well and appreciation.
Thank you. We will continue to carry his spirit for helping others and give it back to the society. For the Hurricane Beryl, we have donated food to the electricity recovery team in Woodland. That is our new restaurant open in Woodland. So because we're really grateful to have everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You.
Commissioner Briones, you have another one.
Yes, so the last resolution, together, please join me in celebrating the Chinese American Citizens Alliance Houston Community Involvement Fund. I know we have various guests here, including Judge Teresa Chang and Kitty So and others. If you could please come up. In 1954, the Chinese American Citizens Alliance Houston Lodge, CACA Houston, which is part of the National Chinese American Citizens Alliance. It's a nonprofit organization founded in, God bless you, in 1895 in response to the 1882 Exclusion Act, which unfairly targeted Chinese people. And whereas for 70 years, CACA Houston has spearheaded efforts against discriminatory immigration laws, it has promoted naturalization and citizenship, it has participated and helped with the census count, advocated for equal educational and economic opportunities, and has encouraged voter registration and has been incredibly active in the community. I will deviate slightly just to recognize Mrs. Cole, who was here, Miss Donna Cole, and Mr. Gondo, who we recognize. Glenn and Kathy Gondo and Mrs. Cole have been they were very actively involved. For example, they were instrumental in awarding the Congressional Gold Medal in 2011 to Japanese American or Nisei World War II veterans. And we know that more than 19,000 Japanese American soldiers served our country in World War II. And Mrs. Cole partnered with many of our leaders, providing her experience in aiding the CACA, which successfully lobbied for the bipartisan passage of the Chinese American World War II Veterans Congressional Gold Medal Act, which was signed into law December 20th, 2018. And we know and we honor the approximately 20,000 Chinese Americans who served in World War II in every branch of the United States Armed forces. And today we have, and we are acknowledging and celebrating the recent pageant. So it's part of its work to engage the community. CACA Houston Community Involvement Fund hosted the first Miss Chinatown Houston Scholarship Pageant. Actually, Commissioner Garcia, it was in 1971 in Sylvan Beach. Now it's in Precinct 4. And so it was the 52nd annual pageant. Congratulations. And one thing that moved me is that y'all give, as a former teacher and me, y'all give more than $18,000 in scholarships to all participants, regardless of how they do in the pageant. And you also teach them public speaking and other skills that will help them for the rest of their lives. So with that, I am here. We also want to honor February 2024, Harris County's own 2023 Miss Chinatown Houston, Grace Zhang, was crowned Miss Chinese Chamber of Commerce First Princess and Miss Talent in the 2024 Miss Chinatown USA pageant. So another reason to be a proud resident of Harris County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Harris County Commissioners Court hereby celebrates everything that the Chinese American Citizen Alliance Houston Community Involvement Fund does in our community. So we're happy to recognize you and Judge Chang, who's an icon and a role model to me and to so many. It is an honor to have you here today, Judge Chang.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Brianos. Good afternoon, County Judge and County Commissioners. I'm Teresa Chang, the co-chair of 2024 Miss Chinatown Houston pageant. This is a 52nd pageant that hosted by Chinese American Citizens Alliance. Let me introduce our group. We had 2024 Miss Chinatown Houston, Teresa So, Miss Chinese New Year, Courtney Starks.
Hey, we need to clap, you guys. This is so awesome. Yeah.
Second Princess, Jessica G. Miss Talent, Clarissa Chen. And our pageant director, Miss Kitty So. All the girls are elegant, beautiful, and passionate about serving the community. The purpose of the pageant of the Miss Chinatown is to provide a young Chinese.
Please continue.
Thank you. To provide the opportunity to the Chinese American young women a platform to be role models in the community and enrich their culture and also further their education through scholarships. Thank you, Commissioner Brianos, for this resolution. We are very honored to be here to accept it today. Our Miss Chinatown Houston will go to San Francisco to compete in the Miss Chinatown USA pageant. Our girls have done well in the past, so we wish the best luck to our Miss Chinatown 2024, Teresa So. Before I finish, I really want to express our appreciation to the county judge and the county commissioners for your dedication in the disasters relief to keep Harris County enjoyable and safe. Thank you so much for your effort.
Thank you, Judge Chang.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Our Miss Chinatown 2024 is going to have a 1-minute remark.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, commissioners and county judge. My name is Teresa So. I'm 19 years old, and I'm an incoming sophomore at Texas A&M University.
Whoop.
This Saturday, I was crowned Miss Chinatown Houston of 2024, and it's been a whirlwind of experience. I want to thank all of you for supporting us and inviting us here, as well as giving us a resolution. Thank you for uplifting our Chinese American community, and on behalf of all the girls here, we are so excited, and thank you for this opportunity. We are so grateful. Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations, and thank you for the 70 plus years, everything you've done to uplift our Chinese community here in Harris County, and we look forward to the next 70 years and beyond.
Judge, good to see you, and thank you for continuing this incredible legacy. These ladies, I don't know how y'all do it. I mean, I've been to so many of the events and have just been immensely impressed with the intellect, the talent that is so prevalent at the event that you always do, Judge. And so just grateful to you for lifting these young ladies and helping them to be proud of their culture and just help move forward. And so wherever you go, just continue to spread your wings, but never forget Houston, Harris County, because we love you, appreciate you here, and we know that wherever you go, you're going to just continue to make an incredible impact. So thank you for always for doing what you're doing. But Judge, thank you because my wife, who you've met on several occasions, she was a part of the Miss Fiestas Patrias beauty pageant back in her day. And not that I noticed, I was particularly interested in the swimsuit event. But listen, thank you for what you're doing. These young people need a mentor. They need someone to encourage them because participating in a pageant is no easy task, and it's not anything for the faint of heart. You really got to put yourself out there. And so it does require mentorship and leadership and support. So thank you for what you do because you're helping us become even stronger and better. So thank you, Judge. Good to see you.
Thank you all so much. Congratulations. We will now take pictures.
Yeah.